Welcome to Zen Dharma Sleep, a space where you return to your inner stillness, where each breath is a gentle lullaby and every story is a bridge leading you back to yourself. Have you ever wondered why your heart feels restless at night, even when the world around you grows quiet? The lights dim, the noise fades, the body finally stills. And yet, something inside continues to stir. Thoughts begin to surface that you didn't have time to feel during the day. Emotions rise like waves in a dark sea, guilt, longing, regret, or an unshakable sense that something is missing. You try to breathe through it. You shift your body under the covers. But peace does not arrive easily. This, too, is part of the path. Zen does not promise that the night will be silent from the beginning. It only invites you to meet whatever appears with presence, not panic. What you are experiencing is not unusual. It is not wrong. It is simply the echo of a mind that's been running too fast for too long. Now, in the stillness of the evening, the dust begins to settle, and what was once hidden starts to rise. You are not failing to relax. You are meeting yourself for the first time today. And that can feel both tender and overwhelming. Zen asks no questions about why you're feeling this way. It offers no quick remedy or advice. Instead, it invites you to stay, to sit, to soften into the discomfort without judging it, without needing to push it away. Like clouds moving across the night sky, your thoughts and feelings will pass. But only if you don't chase them, don't grasp, don't resist. Have you noticed how the harder you try to make them go away, the louder they become? But when you say quietly, "You are allowed to be here," something shifts. The heart softens. The mind begins to trust that it doesn't have to hold everything alone. You are not here to suppress. You are here to notice, to feel, to rest. This moment right now is not asking you to be wise or productive or perfect. It is only asking you to breathe and stay. That's all. That's enough. In Zen tradition, a student once asked the master, "How do I find peace?" The master replied, "By not holding on. Not holding on to what should have been said. Not holding on to the future you haven't arrived at. Not holding on to who you think you need to be." Letting go is not forgetting. Letting go is simply loosening the grip so your fingers can breathe again. Right now, your mind may be trying to solve problems that don't exist in this moment. It may be replaying scenes from earlier today or rehearsing worries for tomorrow. But notice your body is here. Your breath is here. Your life is still happening softly, quietly, underneath the noise. You can return to it. Every time the mind wanders, bring it home with your breath. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Let the rhythm remind you that you are already whole. There is a Zen story about a man who tried to fill a broken jar with water. He kept pouring more and more, but the jar would not hold it. Finally exhausted, he sat down beside it. Only then did he notice the crack. Your mind is like that jar. When you keep trying to pour more into it, more thoughts, more plans, more pressure, without tending to the cracks. Tonight is not about pouring more in. It is about being with what is already there. The restlessness, the ache, the longing, it's all part of your humanity. You don't need to fix it. You only need to meet it, breathe with it, Let it be held by your attention instead of exiled by your fear. Let your breath be your anchor. Let your breath be your lantern. As you inhale, feel it enter gently through your nose, cool and soft. As you exhale, feel the warmth leave your body like a sigh of surrender. No rush, no force, just rhythm, just presence, just now. You are not lost. You are simply learning to be still. And in that stillness, everything begins to find its place. The body releases, the thoughts slow, the emotions find their shape and begin to move. You are not doing this wrong. You are not too far behind. You are not broken. You are here, and here is always enough. You may still feel sensations in your chest, a flutter in your belly, a heaviness in your limbs. That's okay. You are not trying to escape them. You are simply letting them breathe. The more you allow, the less they push. The more you soften, the more the night opens to hold you. You don't need to go looking for peace. Peace is already here, waiting patiently beneath your resistance. It lives in the spaces between your thoughts. It waits in the pause between breaths. It lingers in the quiet after the mind grows tired of trying to control everything. And when that quiet comes, don't rush to fill it. Don't ask it for anything. Just sit inside it. Let it wrap around you like a soft robe. Let it remind you of what your heart already knows. You are safe now. You can stop. You can rest. You can return. And each time you return to this moment, to your breath, to the knowing nature behind your thoughts, you strengthen the part of you that does not fear the night. The part that remembers that rest is not something you earn. It is something you allow. Let this be enough. Let this be the beginning. A night not spent fixing yourself, but finding yourself beneath the layers, beneath the story, beneath the restlessness that only ever wanted your attention. Breathe now. Relax. Relax deeper and stay. Imagine your mind as a cup already filled to the brim, so full of thoughts, expectations, judgments, memories, worries, that even when wisdom tries to enter, it spills over and is lost. In Zen, there's a teaching that a cup that overflows cannot receive. And this is not just about knowledge. It's about peace, clarity, healing. You may go through your day gathering more information, more obligations, more stimulation, without realizing that the very weight you carry is what prevents stillness from settling inside. At night, when you lie down and try to rest, the contents of that overfilled cup slosh about. The unfinished conversations, the subtle fears, the internal pressure, they all rise to the surface. You wonder why you feel restless, and yet this restlessness is not a mystery. It is the result of a mind that hasn't been emptied. You don't need to get rid of your thoughts. You only need to stop clinging to them. You need to gently pour out what no longer serves, what was never yours to hold, what weighs down your ability to simply be. When your mind is full, there is no room for anything new. Not for insight, not for presence, not even for calm. And so the practice begins with release. Release doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be as simple as a breath, as gentle as an exhale. Every time you breathe out, you are letting go, not of everything forever, but of the moment's heaviness. Inhale softly, noticing the air enter your body. Exhale slowly, and imagine a small stream pouring from your cup. Let go of the thought that tried to follow you into sleep. Let go of the voice that told you you didn't do enough today. Let go of the story about who you should be by now. These thoughts are not enemies. They are echoes of fear habit memory. You do not need to argue with them. You only need to stop pouring more into the cup. You only need to set it down. Zen monks often begin their day by emptying the mind, not because they expect to stay empty, but because they know clarity can only arise from spaciousness. Imagine standing by a still pond in early morning. If you throw stones into the water, the ripples distort the reflection. But if you wait, the surface clears and suddenly you can see the sky. Your thoughts are the stones. The ripples are your reactions. The stillness is always there. It only needs time and space to return. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is the condition for truly seeing life as it is. You might believe that emptying your mind means losing something, but in truth, you are making room. Room for rest. Room for intuition. Room for healing. When your hands are always full, you cannot receive what life is trying to give you. You are not weak for needing space. You are wise for knowing that you do. Your body knows this already. That's why it slows down when you breathe. That's why your heartbeat softens when you lie still long enough. Your nervous system is not your enemy. It is your ally, responding to your permission to let go. And so I invite you now to practice. Gently place your attention on your breath. Don't force it. Don't lengthen it unnaturally. Just notice. Is it short? Is it deep? Is it catching somewhere in your chest or belly? Place a hand over that place, not to fix, but to witness. Say silently, "This is where I am." As you exhale, imagine some of the contents of your mental cup flowing out, not disappearing, just stepping aside. Imagine the mind growing lighter, the thoughts settling like sand in water. You don't have to empty everything all at once, just enough to see through, just enough to rest, just enough to remember that peace was never gone. It was only buried beneath the noise. There is a story in Zen about a student who came to the master asking for teaching. The master served him tea but continued pouring, even after the cup was full. The tea spilled over and the student exclaimed, "Stop! The cup can't take any more." The master smiled and said, "Exactly. First empty your cup." This teaching is not harsh. It is not a command. It is a reminder that if you are holding too much, nothing new can enter. Right now, what you are holding may be emotions, unspoken desires, unmet responsibilities, unfinished. You can acknowledge all of it and still let it go for a moment, for a breath, for the length of this night. And when the mind tries to refill itself again, as it will, don't be discouraged. That too is habit. Just notice it with kindness. Here is another thought. another story, another worry. Then gently let it drift by. Your job is not to stop the mind. Your job is to remember that you are not the contents of the mind. You are the awareness beneath it. You are the stillness holding it all. The cup can be emptied and filled again, but the hand that holds the cup, that's where your true peace rests. That hand is your breath. That hand is your knowing. That hand is your presence. And it is steady, even when the cup trembles. There is a quiet wisdom in the way bamboo moves through a storm. It does not resist. It bends, it sways. It allows the wind to pass through it without breaking. Then, when the storm has passed, it returns upright, unharmed, unchanged at its core. This is one of the oldest and most enduring Zen metaphors, and it carries a lesson your heart may need right now. When emotions rise, when the world feels too sharp, when others speak or act in ways that cut deep, your instinct may be to brace yourself, to harden, to stand rigid in an attempt to protect. But in that tension, you become more brittle. The energy you use to hold yourself together becomes the very energy that cracks you open under pressure. Emotional resilience is not born from holding tight. It is born from allowing, from learning how to bend without breaking, how to feel without falling apart, how to stay rooted in your center, even as everything around you shifts. This resilience is not loud. It is not a display of strength. It is the quiet grace of staying soft. When you feel overwhelmed, when a wave of sadness or frustration rises up, suddenly notice what your body does. The shoulders tense, the jaw tightens, the breath becomes shallow. These are signs of resistance signals that your nervous system is preparing for a battle that may not need to happen. Instead of tightening further, try softening. Bring your attention to your breath. Let it deepen naturally. With each exhale, release the grip around your thoughts, your muscles, your emotions. You are not trying to get rid of anything. You are simply choosing not to fight what is already here. You are choosing to be like bamboo, rooted yet flexible. You are learning that you can feel everything and still survive it. In fact, you can feel everything and still remain whole. There is a story of a Zen student who asked his master how to remain peaceful in the middle of emotional storms. The master took him to a grove of bamboo during a strong wind. They stood in silence, watching the long, slender stalks bend low to the ground, then sway back upward with ease. The master finally said, "The bamboo does not resist the wind. That is why it does not fall." The student said nothing, but understood. This is your practice too, not to stop the wind, not to control the weather of your emotions, but to trust that you can move with it, that it will not last, that you do not need to armor yourself to survive your inner world. You only need to breathe, to feel, and to stay present. Emotions like wind are temporary. They may come suddenly with great force, but they never stay. When you panic in the storm, you forget its impermanence. You believe this feeling is permanent, this pain will never fade. But every emotion you've ever felt has passed. Even the deepest grief, even the strongest fear they came, they stayed, they left. What remains is you, the awareness, the breath, the calm underneath the movement. This is what Zen returns you to, Not a life free from emotion, but a self that is free within emotion. Not because you deny it, but because you stop identifying with it. You are not your anger. You are not your sadness. You are not your fear. These are weather systems moving through the sky of your being. You can acknowledge them, honor them, and still remember that you are the sky, not the storm. When you shift your attention from the content of the emotion to the container, your breath, your body, your witnessing presence, you find your grounding. You find your roots. And like the bamboo, you realize you can move without losing yourself. Try feeling this now. Bring to mind an emotion you've been carrying. Don't analyze it. Don't fix it. Just let it appear. Feel it as a sensation in your body. Where does it live? What temperature does it have? What movement? Don't try to change it. Just breathe with it. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Slowly, evenly, with kindness. Let the breath surround the emotion, like wind moving gently through branches. Let it loosen what is tight. Let it soften what is hard. With each breath, remind yourself, this will pass, not as a dismissal, but as a truth. Everything changes. Nothing stays forever, not even this. Resilience does not mean you don't feel deeply. It means you learn to stay soft in your strength, to open even when you want to close. The bamboo teaches you that flexibility is not weakness, it is wisdom. When you resist, you break. When you flow, you survive. And not only survive, you grow stronger, more compassionate, more rooted in the truth of your impermanence. You begin to trust that you are not fragile. You are responsive. You are alive. And life in its purest form is always changing, always moving, always becoming. So, let yourself move too. Let yourself feel and return and breathe again. Let this night be a reminder that you don't need to hold everything together. You can rest. You can allow. You can let the winds of thought and feeling move through without needing to chase or control them. You are not failing by feeling. You are not weak for being tired. You are simply being human. And in your softness, in your gentle return to presence, you are stronger than you realize. Imagine standing by a stream after a heavy rain. The water is cloudy, filled with mud, and debris stirred from the bottom. You cannot see through it. But if you leave the water undisturbed, if you simply let it be, the particles will slowly begin to settle. The stream clears not because you forced it, but because you stopped stirring it. This is the essence of a Zen parable, often shared by monks to illustrate the mind and heart. When emotions rise, when your thoughts are swirling, when you're gripped by confusion or heaviness, your instinct might be to wrestle with the feeling, to analyze it, to fix it, to make it go away. But Zen gently offers another way, not of struggle, but of stillness. When you sit with the muddy water of your emotions, when you stop interfering, the clarity begins to return all on its own. Not instantly, not loudly, but inevitably. The storm quiets when you stop fueling it. And this is a truth so simple, yet so hard to trust. Stillness heals more than resistance ever can. When something upsets you, your body often tenses, your breath tightens, and your mind races for solutions or reasons. This is natural. This is human. But this pattern creates ripples that keep the water murky. Every reaction adds more movement, more complexity, more confusion. Zen doesn't tell you not to feel, it invites you to feel without interfering. To breathe with your sadness. To sit with your doubt. To make space for your fear without needing it to disappear. And in that space, you begin to see the feeling more clearly. It's no longer overwhelming. It's just present. It's just energy. It rises, and then it falls. You realize you don't have to act from it. You don't have to believe every thought it brings with it. You can just be with it. Like sitting beside a friend who's hurting without fixing them. Just holding space. Just being still. There is a monk's story about a student who came to his teacher asking how to find clarity. The teacher handed him a jar filled with muddy water and shook it. "This is your mind when it reacts," the master said. Then he set the jar down on a table. They sat together in silence, watching the water. Slowly, the mud sank to the bottom. The water cleared. The student understood. This practice is available to you at any moment. You do not need to escape to a mountain temple to begin. You only need to stop stirring. Every time you react, you shake the jar. Every time you breathe, you let it rest. Stillness is not something you achieve. It's something you return to. It's what remains when you stop interfering with what already wants to settle. Try noticing right now what is stirring in your jar. Maybe there is something unresolved, a comment that lingered, a fear that stayed, a memory that resurfaced without warning. You don't need to fix it, just notice it. Feel how it moves in your body. Is there tension in your shoulders? A knot in your belly? A pressure behind your eyes? Let your breath touch that place. Not to chase it away, but to accompany it. Inhale gently. Exhale softly. Let your body know it is safe now. You are not in danger. You are simply feeling. And feelings are like weather, they change. The more space you give them, the faster they pass. This does not mean you avoid responsibility. It means you act from clarity, not from confusion. When the mind is clear, the right action often reveals itself without force. But when the mind is muddy, every step feels heavy, uncertain, frantic. The pause between feeling and action, that pause, is where your freedom lives. That pause is the practice. When you feel the urge to respond, to fix, to solve, try this instead. Wait. Breathe. Let the jar settle. Let the water clear. You may find that what once felt urgent no longer needs attention. Or you may see a wiser response that wasn't available through reactivity. In stillness, insight grows. In stillness, healing begins. And sometimes, stillness means sitting in the discomfort without moving away. Letting the sorrow be heavy. Letting the grief have space, letting the confusion exist without resolution. Not because you are helpless, but because you are honoring the time it takes for truth to rise. Clarity is like light filtering through the trees at dawn. It does not arrive all at once. It appears slowly, gently, moment by moment. You cannot rush it, but you can welcome it by being still enough to receive it. So tonight, as you lie in bed, let your body become the jar. Let your breath be the space around the water. Feel the places inside you that are cloudy. Thoughts will come, let them. Emotions may arise, welcome them, but do not stir the jar. Do not grasp at explanations. Do not chase understanding. Let everything settle. Let everything be. The wisdom you seek is already within you. It's simply hidden by movement, by fear, by habit. When you return to stillness, you remember what you forgot, that peace is not something distant. It is what you are made of. That clarity is not a prize, but a process, and that your only task is to be here, gently, quietly, willingly, with the breath, with the moment, with the muddy water as it clears. Sometimes the storm is not outside you, but inside. A wave of anger rises from nowhere. A sudden sadness grips you when everything seemed fine. An anxious thought loops endlessly like a thread that can't be untangled. And in those moments, it's easy to believe that you are the storm that you are made of, that anger, that sadness, that fear. You begin to define yourself by it, react from it, spiral with it. But Zen whispers a different truth, one that shifts the entire way you relate to your emotions. You are not the storm. You are the space it moves through. You are not the crashing wave. You are the ocean holding it. This shift is not abstract. It is deeply practical. Because once you remember that you are the container, not the content, everything changes. You stop clinging to the feeling. You stop fearing it. You begin to rest in the awareness that sees it rise, peak, and pass. Imagine your consciousness as a vast sky. The emotions, the thoughts, the sensations, they are clouds. Some are light and passing. Some are heavy, dark, and stay longer than you wish. But none of them alter the sky. None of them destroy it. The sky remains untouched, expansive, quiet. Your awareness is like that. No matter what passes through it, it remains. You may forget it, but it does not forget you. It is always here, waiting for your return. You return by noticing, by becoming the witness again, by stepping back from the swirl of emotion and saying gently, "This is here, but it is not me." In that moment, you shift from identification to observation. You go from drowning to floating. And then even the strongest emotion loses its grip. When a difficult feeling arises, try this: place one hand on your chest, the other on your belly. Close your eyes and breathe slowly. Name the feeling quietly without judgment. Anger, sadness, worry. You are not denying it. You are giving it space. You are allowing it to be seen without letting it control your actions. And as you breathe, repeat softly inside, "This is moving through me. It is not who I am." Let that truth settle into your body. Let it land in your nervous system. Because the more you do this, the more your system begins to trust that you no longer need to panic. You no longer need to fix every emotion the moment it arises. You are strong enough to stay. There is a story in Zen of a monk who was asked how he dealt with fear. He replied, "I welcome it in, I offer it tea, and then I watch it leave." This is the art of non-identification. You greet what arises. You stay with it. You do not fight, and you do not fuse. And because of that, you remain free. You are not frozen by what you feel. You are not swept away. You become a compassionate host to your inner world. And when you stop resisting the storm begins to dissolve. The reason we suffer so much during emotional storms is not just because the feeling is strong, but because we cling to the idea that it defines us. That if we feel angry, we are angry. That if we feel hopeless, we are broken. But feelings are weather. And like weather, they are natural, ever-changing, and not personal. They don't mean something is wrong with you. They mean something is moving through you. And when you let it move, it does not stay. What stays is your awareness, your breath, your ability to return. Returning is a sacred act. It's the gentle shift from chaos to calm, the quiet decision to sit down in the middle of the storm and just breathe. Not because the storm is gone, but because you've remembered you are more than it. You've remembered the vastness inside you. You've remembered your sky, and from that place, you begin to live differently. You speak with less urgency. You react with more care. You hold yourself with more kindness. Because you are no longer tangled in the storm, you are holding it with open hands. Tonight, you may feel waves rising. Thoughts may come, some sharp, some heavy. Emotions may stir. You do not need to suppress them. You do not need to solve them. You only need to let them pass. Rest in the breath. Rest in the quiet awareness that watches it all. Feel the inhale like a breeze entering your lungs. Feel the exhale as release. Let the rhythm remind you that nothing is stuck. Everything flows. You are not the turbulence. You are the space that holds it. And in that space, you can rest. You can heal. You can remember that peace is not the absence of storms, but the ability to rest while they pass through. You are that ability. You are that space. You are not the storm. You are the sky. There is a moment when your mind becomes so crowded, so noisy, so filled with planning and remembering and worrying that you stop seeing what is right in front of you. You miss the way the light moves across the wall, the sound of your breath entering and leaving the quiet hum of stillness that's always present beneath the surface. Zen teaches that when the mind is full, you miss the moon. You miss the beauty, the wisdom, the clarity that can only be perceived in the stillness between thoughts. The moon in this ancient metaphor is your true nature, quiet, reflective, ever present. But when your mental waters are stirred with too many ripples, you can no longer see its reflection. The moon hasn't disappeared. You've simply filled the surface so completely with thought that its light cannot shine through. You become so busy searching for answers that you miss the answer that was always quietly waiting in the present moment. This is not a judgment. This is simply what the mind does when it is left unchecked. It fills itself. It fills the room, the breath, the space between things. And so the practice is not to fight the fullness, but to notice it, and then to gently begin pouring it out. You might notice this fullness in the way your body holds tension, your jaw clenched without realizing, your shoulders raised just slightly, your breath caught shallow in your chest. You are not always aware of how much effort it takes to keep holding everything in your mind. The calendar, the decisions, the fears, the hopes, The things you said or didn't say, it piles up, it builds, and soon the weight is no longer from what's happening around you, but from everything that's happening inside. You reach for your phone. You open another tab. You try to distract yourself to manage it all. But the mind, when overstimulated, cannot relax through more stimulation. It needs quiet. It needs space. It needs to be emptied in order to return to clarity. There is a story of a Zen master who would sit silently in his garden each evening, even after a long day of teaching and walking and working. When asked why, he simply said, "To empty the teacup." Each day, your mind accumulates, and each evening is an invitation to pour it out. Not all at once, not with force, but slowly, like draining a kettle after the tea is gone. You pour out by breathing, by being, by noticing without judging, noticing how full you've become, noticing the way your thoughts repeat, noticing how your body whispers for a pause. This noticing is the beginning of release. You are not emptying the mind through effort, but through presence. Through the gentle act of watching thought without climbing into it. The practice is subtle. You don't push thoughts away. You let them come and then let them go. Like watching people pass by through a window. You do not invite each one in. You do not follow them down the street. You simply observe, breathe, and stay rooted. Over time, the traffic slows. Over time, the space between each thought grows wider. And in that space, the moon appears again. You see it reflected in the quiet mind. Not because it suddenly returned, but because you stopped crowding it. You didn't manufacture peace. You revealed it. This is what presence feels like. It's not grand or dramatic. It's simple. It's a moment where you actually feel your breath, where you actually taste your tea, where you notice the way your chest rises and falls without needing your input. In these small moments, the fullness of mind begins to recede. Not because the world changed, but because you stopped gripping it so tightly. You stopped adding. You began subtracting. And in that subtraction, peace slipped in. Try practicing this right now. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Place a hand gently on your heart or belly. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Slowly. No rush. Say quietly inside, let it be. Not let it go, because sometimes you're not ready to release everything. But let it be. Let the thoughts exist without needing to chase them. Let the worries hover without feeding them. Let the mind be full without getting lost in the content. You're stepping back, not from life, but from mental clutter. You're clearing a small corner of your awareness so that silence can enter. Even as you do this more, thoughts may come. That's not a problem. The mind produces thought like lungs produce breath. It's not about stopping, it's about seeing, about choosing which thoughts you follow and which you allow to pass. This choice is power. This awareness is freedom. The more you practice seeing, without grasping, the lighter you become. The clearer the water. the brighter the moon. And when you notice yourself drifting into planning, into remembering, into mentally narrating your experience, just return. Softly, kindly, no judgment. The return is the practice. The return is the path. Each time you come back, you strengthen your center. Each time you notice you are not failing, you are waking up. And in that waking, even just for a breath, the fullness begins to dissolve. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who watches them. You are not your plans. You are the space they pass through. You are not the full teacup. You are the hand that chooses when to pour. And tonight, you are choosing peace, not by adding more, but by allowing less, not by seeking the moon, but by becoming still enough to see it. There are questions that stir the mind into restlessness, questions with no immediate answers, thoughts that fold in on themselves, riddles that feel like they demand solving. But in Zen, there are teachings that are not meant to be solved in the mind. They are meant to be experienced in silence. One of the most well-known of these is the koan. What is the sound of one hand clapping? At first, it seems absurd. The mind wants to analyze it, pick it apart, search for logic, but the more you try to solve it with thought, the further you drift from its essence. That's the point. Koans are designed to disrupt your habitual thinking, to break the pattern of constant intellectual analysis and return you to a place beyond language, a place of direct knowing. The sound of one hand clapping is not an answer you find, but a doorway you enter when thought stops trying to lead. It invites you into paradox, into mystery, into stillness. And in that space, something softens. Something loosens its grip. You begin to feel instead of interpret. You begin to sense instead of conclude. In your everyday life, the mind is constantly reaching for explanations, for solutions, for safety through logic. But not everything can be held with words. Not every truth lives in thought. Some truths live in the body, in presence, in silence. Zen teachings are not about filling you with knowledge. They are about emptying you of assumptions. They are not answers. They are mirrors, and when you are still enough, they reflect something you've always known, but forgotten how to see. The sound of one hand clapping is a call to stop chasing clarity in the mind and to drop into awareness itself, into the space where no answer is needed for peace to arise. This can be deeply uncomfortable at first. You've been trained to believe that understanding leads to safety, that if you can name it, label it, define it, you'll be okay. But what if real safety is found not in grasping, but in letting go? Not in solving, but in surrendering. You don't need to figure everything out before you rest. You don't need to explain your pain in order to soothe it. You don't need to make sense of the past to be whole in the present. The sound of one hand clapping reminds you that stillness is its own kind of wisdom, that silence is its own kind of answer. You stop asking and suddenly you hear. Try noticing how often your thoughts try to finish a sentence that doesn't need finishing. How they jump ahead, trying to close every loop. That habit is not wrong. It is part of being human. But it is also what keeps you in a state of tension. Zen invites you to sit in the unfinished sentence, to rest in the open space. to allow the not knowing to be a place of peace, not fear. In that not knowing, your awareness expands, your breath deepens, your body feels safe again, not because everything is known, but because you've remembered how to be with what is unknown. You don't need to understand the koan, you only need to let it do its work, to let it bypass the mind and speak directly to your being. Just as you don't need to understand every word of a song to be moved by its melody, you don't need to decode every Zen story to be transformed by its rhythm. Let this be your practice now. Let go of needing to make sense of everything. Feel the breath. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Let the space between each breath hold what cannot be named. There is a deeper listening that happens when the mind grows quiet. A listening not with the ears, but with the whole body. You begin to hear the silence itself, not as absence, but as presence. Not as emptiness, but as fullness. The sound of one hand clapping is not silence, it is what silence reveals. It is the place you arrive at when you stop needing every sound to resolve every thought to conclude. You begin to discover that not all peace comes from answers. Some peace comes from surrender. Some peace comes from the willingness to not know. And in that willingness, something opens. A softness, a lightness, a quiet recognition that you do not need to hold so tightly anymore. You do not need to carry every question on your back. You do not need to seek endlessly for what has been within you all along. Stillness is not something to achieve. It is something you fall into when the reaching stops. Like a feather settling to the earth, when the wind dies down, you land in yourself when the need to solve dissolves. Tonight, let this be your invitation. Let the sound of one hand clapping echo gently through your thoughts, not as a problem to fix, but as a reminder to return, to rest in the breath, to feel the space around your body, to stop trying to arrive anywhere. Let the paradox carry you, not confuse you. Let the mystery comfort you, not frighten you. Let the silence between words speak the truth your thoughts cannot. You are not here to solve Zen. You are here to be still enough to let Zen undo what was never truly you. There is a beauty in repetition, in the simplicity of daily actions that ask nothing more of you than presence. In the Zen monasteries, even the masters sweep the leaves every morning, even when the wind blows more down with each gust, even when the task seems endless. They do not sweep for the sake of completion. They sweep for the sake of returning. In Zen, there is no separation between the sacred and the mundane. The act of sweeping the path is not different from sitting in silent meditation or listening to the teachings of the Buddha. The same awareness is invited into each moment, each breath, each movement. You might think enlightenment is something far away reserved for mountaintops and silence, but Zen reminds you, it is always here in your hands, in the small gestures and the ordinary rhythms of your day. And so when you pick up a cup, or brush your hair, or wash your face before sleep, you are not doing small things. You are entering practice. You are learning to let the act itself become the teacher. The mind often looks for drama to confirm meaning. It believes that if something is important, it must feel big, loud, profound. But the teachings of Zen quietly suggest the opposite. That which is most important is often the most easily overlooked. Peace doesn't shout. It doesn't demand your attention. It waits patiently in the pauses, in the breath, in the way your fingers curl around a spoon. The leaves fall again every morning. The master sweeps them again every morning, not because he needs a clean path, but because the sweeping reminds him of the path inside, the path of breath, of presence, of surrender. When you live this way, you stop dividing your life into parts. This is not spiritual. That is just routine. Instead, all of life becomes an opportunity to return. All of life becomes sacred. You may think, but my life is too messy, too loud, too full of distractions. And that may be true. But Zen doesn't ask you to escape your life. It asks you to enter it more deeply, to feel the weight of the dish in your hand as you wash it, to notice the sound of your footsteps on the floor, to bring the same gentle attention to brushing your teeth as you would to listening to a Dharma talk. In this way, nothing is wasted. Every moment becomes the path. The present moment, however, plain, becomes your place of awakening. The sweep of your hand, the pull of the blanket, the quiet folding of clothes. These are not chores. These are doorways. There is a story of a monk who was asked what enlightenment looked like. He replied, "Chop wood, carry water." When pressed further, he said before enlightenment, "Chop wood, carry water." After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. What changes is not the world, but your relationship to it. You stop waiting for something special to happen. You begin to see that life is already happening, and all that's needed is your full presence. When you are present, the most ordinary tasks begin to shine. You begin to sense a rhythm beneath your routines, a stillness within the motion, a calm awareness that pervades even the busiest day. Try this now. Picture the most repetitive task in your day, something you usually do on autopilot. Maybe it's brushing your hair, making tea, tying your shoelaces. Imagine doing it with full attention. Feel the sensation. Hear the sound. Notice the breath moving through you as you do it. This is not performance. This is not about doing it better. This is about doing it with presence, with heart, with breath. And suddenly, the task changes. It softens. It slows. It welcomes you. The task becomes the teacher. The moment becomes enough. In Zen practice, there is no escape from the now. There is only learning how to live inside it more fully. How to bring your awareness, like a flame, into each action, so that even the smallest thing becomes a meditation. This is how you heal, not by trying harder, but by being softer, not by fixing yourself, but by feeling yourself. Let your daily actions become your prayer. Let your movements become your mantra. Let your stillness begin with your hands. Tonight, as you move through your bedtime rituals, do so with care. Touch the toothbrush with reverence. Feel the water as it runs over your skin. Hear the soft rustle of fabric as you prepare for rest. Let each gesture remind you that you are already enough. You do not need more to be whole. You only need to remember how to return, how to be with what is already here. The monk sweeps not to remove the leaves, but to remember that everything is already the path. Even this, even now. There is a truth in Zen that becomes clear only when you begin to pay attention to where your awareness rests. The teaching says karma flows where attention goes. At first glance, it may seem like just another poetic phrase, but when you sit with it, you begin to see how your habits, your moods, your emotional reactions are not random. They are fed, reinforced, and shaped by where you place your attention. If your attention rests on resentment, the mind will weave stories that deepen it. If your attention lingers on fear, your breath will tighten and your body will brace even in the absence of danger. If you dwell on comparison, envy grows. But when you place your attention on the present moment, on the breath, on the body, on the felt sense of now, something begins to shift. The stories loosen, the tension softens, the energy that once fueled suffering begins to flow in another direction. Karma, in this way, is not punishment. It is habit. It is movement. It is momentum. And attention is the steering wheel. What you repeatedly attend to becomes the path your mind walks every day. Much of your emotional pain is not caused by what happens, but by the story your mind continues to feed after it happens. Someone says something and you carry it for hours playing it back, imagining different responses, feeling the sting again and again. The original event has passed, but your attention keeps it alive. This is karma, not from the act itself, but from your relationship to it. And the miracle is you can shift it. You can place your attention on breath instead of the insult, on sensation instead of storyline, on kindness instead of judgment. Each shift, though small, creates new momentum. Each time you choose awareness over reactivity, you carve a new path in the mind. You begin to train yourself toward presence, toward peace. But this is not about denial. It's not about pretending nothing hurts. It's about reclaiming your power to choose where you dwell. Pain is real. Emotions are valid. But suffering often deepens when attention fuels the flame instead of calming it. In Zen, we learn not to suppress feeling, but to meet it with clear awareness. To say, yes, this is here, and then gently decide where we want to rest. You may feel anger, but you don't have to nest in it. You may feel fear, but you don't have to water it. You may feel grief, but you can choose to sit beside it instead of within it. Where attention goes, energy flows, and over time, what you nourish becomes your path. Think of your mind like a field. Every thought is a seed, every emotion a sprout. What you water with your attention will grow. If you water self-doubt, it will grow deep roots. If you water compassion, that too will flourish. The field does not judge, it simply responds. So what are you planting? What are you feeding? The beauty of this teaching is that you are never trapped. Even if you've spent years watering weeds of fear or resentment, the moment you shift your attention, the soil begins to change. It may take time. It may take patience. But the process begins the moment you choose to look differently. Try it now. Notice where your attention is resting. Is it in the breath or in a memory? Is it with your body or drifting through thought? Don't judge it. Just notice. Gently guide it to your breath, to the rising and falling in your belly. Let it settle there. let it root, and then watch what happens. The thoughts may still swirl, the emotions may still move, but the center holds. The breath becomes an anchor, and you begin to see that attention is not just awareness, it is love. It is care. It is the way you choose to be with yourself. There is a Zen story of a monk who was asked how he remained so calm. He replied, "When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I sleep, I sleep." The student was puzzled. "But doesn't everyone do that?" The monk smiled. "No. When others eat, their minds are full of worries. When they walk, they think of the past or future. When they sleep, they rehearse tomorrow. I do one thing at a time with full attention. This is not a superpower. It is a practice. A choice made again and again. To return, to stay, to care where your attention lands. Attention is not just mental. It is emotional, energetic, physical. When you bring attention to your body, it begins to soften. When you attend to your feelings, they begin to express and release. When you listen deeply, healing begins. You do not need to fix everything. You need to be with everything. With presence, with breath, with care. And as you do, karma begins to change. The old patterns no longer rule you. The loops begin to loosen. The reactions begin to fade. You are no longer just repeating. You are creating. Creating spaciousness. Creating clarity. Creating peace. Tonight, let your attention rest on the breath. Let the breath be enough. When thoughts arise, smile at them. Let them pass like birds flying across the sky. You don't need to catch them. You only need to notice where your attention goes. And when it wanders, gently return. Again and again. This is how karma shifts, not with force, but with gentle repetition. You are planting peace with every breath. And one day, you'll look around and see that your inner garden has changed, not because the world stopped moving, but because you learned to choose where to stand. There is a bell in the Zen monastery that is not struck for noise, but for silence. Its deep, resonant tone does not fill the room with more sound. It clears it. It does not interrupt the silence, but reveals it vibrating through the air as a reminder of something that has always been present, but often forgotten. In Zen, this bell is not a command, not an alarm, not a symbol of urgency. It is an invitation to return, to stop, to notice the silence beneath the sound. Because silence is not the absence of life. It is life itself, uncluttered, unburdened, unveiled, beneath your thoughts, beneath your emotions, beneath the chatter of the mind and the noise of the world. There is always silence. You don't create it, you remember it, you uncover it, and in that uncovering, something in you begins to relax, not because all problems are solved, but because you've touched the place where nothing needs to be solved. The bell does not speak to the thinking mind, it speaks to the knowing self, the part of you that recognizes truth by how it feels in the body, not by how it fits in words. When the bell sounds, monks pause. They stop walking, stop talking, stop thinking. just for a moment. They return to breath, to posture, to presence. This is not superstition. It is not ritual for ritual's sake. It is training. Training the body and mind to respond to stillness. To remember that silence is not blankness, but depth. That peace is not a rare state, but the foundation beneath the layers. In your life, you may not have a bell that rings each hour, but your breath can be that bell. Each inhale a quiet call back. Each exhale a soft answer. Each moment of awareness a chance to rediscover what lives underneath all your rushing and striving. When you listen not with ears, but with attention, you begin to hear that even in a noisy world, silence is always possible. You might believe that silence is something you must earn, something that arrives only when everything else is done. But Zen flips that belief. It says silence is your starting point, your home, your natural state. The noise is what was added. The silence was always there. Like a clear pond beneath fallen leaves, it waits. It waits for you to stop stirring the surface. You don't need to banish thoughts. You don't need to control your environment. You only need to become still enough to listen. And in that listening, the silence speaks, not in words, but in presence, not in concepts, but in feeling. A quiet knowing that says this moment is enough. You are enough. There is a famous Zen poem that says the silence of the bell is louder than its sound. You begin to understand this when you sit long enough. When you stop waiting for insight to arrive through volume and begin to feel it arise through space. The space between thoughts, the pause between breaths, the gap between the words you say and the ones you don't. This space is not empty. It is luminous, alive, full of potential. It is where your nervous system unwinds, where your heart opens, where the truth of your being becomes easier to touch. Try this now. Let your breath be the bell. Inhale slowly, feeling the air enter. Exhale gently, feeling the body soften. Listen not to the sound, but to what exists beneath the sound. Not to the thoughts, but to the silence between them. Not to the tension, but to the pause after it fades. Don't try to make anything happen. Just be with what is already happening without rushing past it. You'll begin to notice a shift, subtle but profound. The silence grows not because the world stopped, but because you did. Because you stopped chasing meaning in movement and started receiving it in stillness. Silence is not always comfortable. At first, it may bring things to the surface. Old thoughts, restless energy, emotions that have been ignored. This is normal. This is good. The silence is not causing the discomfort. It is revealing what was already there beneath the distraction. Stay with it. Breathe through it. Let it rise and fall like a wave, and return to the still water beneath. Over time, silence becomes your friend. Not cold or distant, but warm, intimate, healing. You begin to crave it, not as escape, but as connection, not as withdrawal, but as return. In Zen, the silence beneath the bell is the same as the silence inside your breath, the silence between your thoughts, the silence you meet when you close your eyes and stop trying. It is the silence that lives in the center of being. And from this silence, wisdom arises. Not the kind you learn from books, but the kind that surfaces uninvited when the mind gets quiet enough to hear it. It says things like, let go, or just breathe, or you are already home. Not in words, but in felt sense. Not in analysis, but in the body's own remembering. As you settle into rest tonight, let the silence rise around you. Not as something to find, but as something to uncover. Let your thoughts slow, not by force, but by the gravity of presence. Let your body sink into the bed, your breath soften, your awareness widen. Let everything else fade into the background. All the noise, the effort, the reaching. Let the bell ring once inside your awareness and feel the echo in your bones. That echo is peace. That echo is who you are beneath the surface. Breathe and listen. Listen and know. Know and rest. There is a story in Zen about a beloved porcelain teacup, one of great beauty, delicate craftsmanship, and sentimental value. A student cherished it dearly, handling it with reverence, displaying it with pride. One day, while cleaning, the cup slipped from his hands and shattered on the ground. The student stood in stunned silence, grief rising in his chest, guilt swarming his mind. He wept not only for the broken cup, but for the memory it carried, the value it held, the loss it represented. When the master came and saw him distraught, he said only this: the cup was already broken. At first, the student didn't understand, but with time and practice, the truth of that statement began to settle in. The cup, like everything else, was impermanent. Its breakage wasn't a tragedy, it was inevitable. It had always carried within it the nature of its own eventual end, and knowing that doesn't make the loss less real, but it makes the attachment less painful. You are not told to feel less, but to hold more lightly. To understand that everything you love carries the seed of its own change, and that peace comes not from avoiding that truth, but from living in harmony with it. This teaching is not cold. It is not asking you to be indifferent. It is inviting you into the fullness of experience without clinging. Your heart can break and still remain whole. Your love can be deep and still not demand permanence. The cup was already broken. The moment you picked it up, you were holding something that would one day change. When you live with this awareness, every moment becomes more precious, not less. You don't turn away from life. You turn toward it with more presence, more reverence, more care. You stop wasting energy trying to make things last forever, and instead begin to meet them completely, knowing they are passing. And that is where your freedom begins, not in the denial of endings, but in the intimacy of impermanence. How many things have you gripped tightly, hoping to keep them the same forever? A relationship, a routine, an identity, a phase of life. And when they changed, as all things do, how much suffering came, not from the change itself, but from your refusal to let it be what it was. When we say the cup was already broken, we are not saying to love less. We are saying to love with eyes open. to embrace fully while releasing gently, to grieve when it's time, but without bitterness, without turning loss into a prison. Loss is not punishment, it is the rhythm of existence. It reminds us that nothing is owed, everything is a gift, and each breath is unrepeatable. Sit with that for a moment. Each breath you take, you will never take again. Each word you speak, you will never speak again in the same way, at the same time, to the same person. Every sunset you see is both the first and the last of its kind. This is not morbid. This is awakening. This is how you step into the richness of being alive. By knowing that nothing is guaranteed, you begin to treasure what is here. You begin to say thank you, not just for the good moments, but for the ordinary ones, the silent ones, the ones that pass unnoticed, even the broken ones. When something precious in your life breaks a dream, a friendship, a belief, you might be tempted to think that something has gone wrong. But Zen reminds you the cup was already broken. This is not to dismiss your sorrow, but to widen the frame, to remember that all things arise and pass. That heartbreak is not a failure of love, but a reflection of how deeply you cared. And in that care, in that sorrow, there is something beautiful, something honest, something that makes you more human, not less. This awareness doesn't make you numb, it makes you tender. It makes you slower to anger, quicker to forgive, more willing to say I'm sorry, more open to saying I love you while you still can. You begin to see that you don't own anything. Not your body, not your possessions, not even your thoughts. You are just passing through, and everything else is passing with you. And instead of being frightened by this, you begin to relax, to breathe, to let go a little more each day. The grief still comes, but it's no longer sharp. It moves like a wave instead of crashing like a wall. Let this be your practice tonight. Bring to mind something you've been holding tightly, something you're afraid to lose, something you wish had stayed unchanged. See it clearly, feel it fully, and then say softly to yourself, the cup was already broken. Let that truth hold you. Let it soften you. Let it return you to your breath. Not to detach from love, but to love with fewer chains. To trust that even when something breaks, you do not break with it. You remain whole, here, breathing. There's a tension that arises deep within you every time things don't go as planned. When the world does not match your expectations, when people do not behave the way you hoped they would. You may not always notice it, but it's there, in the way your jaw clenches, your breath shortens, your chest tightens. It's the discomfort of not being in control. The human mind longs for control because it believes that through control, it can create safety, predictability, happiness. But Zen invites you into a different understanding. It reminds you that control is illusion, that the more tightly you grip, the more life resists. That peace is not found in the perfection of outcomes, but in the acceptance of what is. This is the doorway to the teaching of non-self, or anatta, not the denial of your existence, but the release of your fixed identity, the realization that you are not the center from which everything must bend. You are not the controller of all things. You are the observer, the participant, the breath that moves through the ever-changing landscape of now. The more you cling to the idea of me, the more you suffer every time that idea is challenged. The self you think you are, the one that must always be right, that must be protected, that must never fail. That self is constantly threatened because it's a story. And like all stories, it must change. When you resist change, you suffer. When you believe the story is permanent, you feel betrayed by the natural rhythms of life. But when you see that the self is fluid, that your thoughts and emotions and even personality are not fixed objects, but flowing processes, something relaxes. You no longer have to defend everything. You no longer have to be perfect. You can simply be. This is not an erasure of identity, but a liberation from its prison. The idea of, I am this and only this, becomes softer. You begin to say, I am here. I am breathing. I am aware. And that is enough. There is a Zen image of a hand opening and closing. When the hand grips, it cannot receive. When it opens, it holds everything with ease. The sense of self is like that hand. When it is tight clenched around ideas of how things should be, it suffers. When it opens, it begins to see clearly. You are not your name. You are not your role. You are not even your thoughts. You are the one who sees all of these arise and fall, and the one who breathes through each wave. This does not mean you become passive. It means you become responsive instead of reactive. You meet life not with demands, but with curiosity. Not with force, but with presence. Think of the last time something didn't go the way you wanted. Maybe someone disappointed you. Maybe a plan unraveled. Maybe your own body didn't do what you needed. Notice how the mind reacted. It likely said, this shouldn't be happening, or I need this to stop. That voice comes from the illusion of control, from the belief that you are in charge of how the world unfolds. But now, imagine that same moment from the perspective of non-self. You're not erasing the experience, but shifting your relationship to it. You say, this is what's happening now. Can I be with it? That single shift softens the resistance. The energy you once used to fight the moment becomes the energy you use to stay with it. And in staying, you begin to hear what the moment is really asking of you. Not escape, not denial, but presence. When you release the illusion of control, something remarkable happens. You start to trust life. You start to see that just as your breath enters and leaves without your constant attention, many things unfold with a rhythm that is deeper than your understanding. You are not a machine that must manage everything. You are part of a vast interconnected field of being. You are moved as much as you move. You are shaped as much as you shape. And in that dance, there is beauty. There is flow. There is freedom. The teaching of non-self is not abstract. It becomes real every time you pause before reacting. Every time you breathe through discomfort. Every time you let go of the story that you must always be in control. It becomes real every time you say, I don't know who I am right now, and that's okay. because that not knowing is closer to truth than any fixed label could ever be. When you live from that openness, your relationships shift, your decisions soften, your self-criticism begins to fade. You stop trying to fit into the narrow container of identity and begin to explore the vast space of awareness. Try practicing this now. As you inhale, say silently, "No self to protect." As you exhale, say, "Only breath to feel." Let those words settle into your body. Let them remind you that you don't have to figure it all out tonight. You don't have to hold so tightly. The version of you that felt lost this morning may not be the same one breathing now. Let it change. Let it soften. Let yourself be a process, not a product. And when thoughts arise that try to pull you back into old narratives of blame, of shame, of fear, meet them not with force, but with curiosity. Who is the one thinking? Who is the one feeling? Can you find a fixed self, or only movement, only awareness, only breath? Stay with that, not as an exercise, but as an invitation to return to what's real. Not the illusion of control, but the quiet, spacious truth of being. There is a Zen saying, "No snowflake ever falls in the wrong place." At first it sounds poetic, perhaps even abstract, but when you sit with it long enough, you begin to feel its quiet truth taking root in your life. Nothing arrives by accident. Every event, every meeting, every moment of joy or sorrow, every twist and turn in your path, it all unfolds with a rhythm deeper than logic, a choreography of unfolding that is not always meant to be understood, but trusted. You may not always see the purpose right away. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it's never explained in words. But in the quiet, in the stillness, you begin to notice how even pain has softened you in ways joy never could, how even loss has made room for deeper love, how the places you were once desperate to escape from are the same places where your compassion began to grow. The snowflake falls, and though it melts, it leaves its impression for a moment, and that moment shapes the whole. This teaching is not an excuse for passivity. It is not saying everything that happens is good or fair. It is not bypassing the real grief, the injustice, the hardship that exists. Rather, it's an invitation to expand your view, to see that within every experience, pleasant or painful, there is a seed. And that seed, when nurtured with attention and presence, can become part of your awakening. When you stop labeling every moment as wrong or right success or failure, good or bad, you begin to step outside the narrow corridors of judgment and into the open field of awareness. You begin to see that what once felt like a detour was the path, that what once felt like a mistake was a mirror, that nothing was wasted, not even your worst day. So much of your suffering comes from the belief that something went wrong, that you are off track, that life should have looked different by now. But in Zen, there is no off track. There is only this step, and then the next. The ego says, "I should be further by." No. But awareness asks, "Can you be here completely?" You may feel lost, but you are still breathing. You may feel behind, but the present is still waiting for you. The snowflake never falls in the wrong place, and you have not lived a wrong life. You have lived a human one. Messy, beautiful, unpredictable. And in that very mess, the light shines through. Let yourself remember the moments when things didn't go as planned, the job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the illness that changed everything. At the time, it may have felt like failure, like chaos, like the universe had forgotten you. But now, perhaps you see it differently. Perhaps it led you to a version of yourself more grounded, more humble, more awake. Perhaps it cracked you open in a way that nothing else could. This is not about romanticizing pain, but about recognizing your resilience, about honoring the way you've kept walking, even when the path disappeared beneath your feet. Every snowflake, every moment, every scar has shaped you. And none of it was random. When you stop arguing with reality, something softens. You stop needing everything to make sense. You stop needing every door to open. You stop needing every person to stay. Instead, you begin to live in partnership with what is. You begin to listen, to adapt, to trust. Trust doesn't mean passive acceptance. It means active presence. It means meeting each moment with the fullness of your breath, your awareness, your heart. It means saying, "This too belongs even when it hurts, even when it confuses you, even when it breaks something open that you weren't ready to feel." There's a quiet power in this kind of trust, a steadiness, a rootedness that no circumstance can shake. You stop clinging to the highs, fearing the lows, and instead settle into the flow beneath it all. That flow is not always comfortable, but it is honest. And it is there, waiting for you every time you return to your breath. Try that now. Inhale slowly, as if breathing in the truth that nothing has been wasted. Exhale gently, as if releasing the belief that you need to understand it all. Let the breath remind you that even now, in this exact place, you are not off track. You are not late. You are not broken. You are unfolding moment by moment, just as you are meant to. There is a calm that comes not from controlling life, but from surrendering to it. From saying yes to what is rather than constantly reaching for what should be. This does not mean settling. It means seeing clearly. It means acknowledging that while you may strive and plan and dream, and you should, you also hold those dreams lightly, knowing that the snow will fall where it falls, and that you will find your way no matter what. Because the path is not something outside of you. The path is the way you walk, the presence you bring, the breath you take, the way you touch this moment with your attention. So tonight, as you lie down, let the weight of judgment slip from your shoulders. Let the stories of right and wrong dissolve into the silence. Let yourself rest, not because everything is perfect, but because you are allowed to. Let yourself believe that you are exactly where you need to be, not in a final sense, but in a sacred one. Here is where the breath is. Here is where life meets you. Here is where the next step begins. No snowflake ever falls in the wrong place, and neither have you. There is a lesson whispered through every Zen garden, a truth that unfolds not through theory, but through touch, through silence, through the steady rhythm of rake on gravel. In those gardens, nothing is random, yet nothing is forced. The stones are placed with intention, the sand raked with care, the patterns formed and then eventually swept away. Nothing is permanent, and yet everything is done with full presence. This is the art of detachment, not in the cold sense of being distant or unfeeling, but in the quiet mastery of engaging fully without clinging. Zen teaches that you can love without possessing work, without obsessing, create without demanding permanence. The garden is made beautiful, not by how long it lasts, but by how fully it is attended to. Your life is the same. You are not meant to hold everything forever. You are meant to meet it fully, care for it deeply, and then let it go when it is time. To rake the lines knowing they will fade and still rake them with love. You suffer most, not because things change, but because you expect them not to. You hold on sometimes tightly, sometimes desperately, to ideas, to people, to roles, to moments. And when they shift, as they must, your grasp becomes your wound. Zen does not tell you to stop caring. It invites you to care wisely, to know the difference between holding and clinging, between loving and attaching, between investing your presence and attaching your identity. The garden is not less beautiful because the wind will scatter the lines. It is more beautiful because you loved it without needing it to stay. This is detachment, not absence, but freedom. Not disinterest, but clarity. Consider how many things you've tried to freeze in place. A perfect moment you didn't want to end. A version of yourself you wanted to preserve. A relationship you feared would fade. In clinging to what was, you miss what is. The present becomes a shadow cast by the past. Detachment invites you back into now. It asks you to notice the breath, the sensation, the subtle beauty that exists only here, only once. To witness life unfolding without needing to own it. To love each breath, not because it stays, but because it passes. There's a story of a monk who crafted beautiful sand mandalas, intricate designs made grain by grain, often over days. And when the work was finished, he would pause, breathe, and sweep it all away in a single motion. Not as destruction, but as devotion. A reminder that nothing, no matter how sacred, is permanent, and that clinging does not honor the beauty. It distorts it. When you begin to live like this, not with indifference, but with presence, you start to feel lighter. Not because life is easier, but because you're no longer trying to force it to stay still. You let joy come, and you let it go. You let sorrow visit, and you let it leave. You hold everything the way you hold the breath in, then out. Fully received, fully released. Try feeling this in your body now. Inhale gently. Receive the breath like a gift. Exhale softly. Let it go like a blessing. Feel how natural it is to release, how nothing in your body resists letting the air move on. This is how you are meant to hold your experiences. Not with fear, not with possession, but with flow. Let the breath teach you what the mind forgets, that nothing needs to be clutched, that everything returns, transforms, continues in new form. The more you cling, the more pain you feel. The more you release, the more peace you touch. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. In fact, it allows you to feel more deeply, because you are no longer numbing yourself against loss. You are no longer bracing for impact. You are living open, soft, available to each moment as it arrives. And in that openness, even grief becomes sacred. Even disappointment becomes a teacher. Even endings become beginnings you hadn't yet imagined. The lines in the Zen garden are raked again each morning. The wind does not destroy them. It prepares the canvas. And so too does change prepare you for something new. Let this be your practice. As you move through your day, ask yourself gently, am I holding or clinging? Am I honoring this moment or trying to trap it? Am I willing to let it go when the time comes? These questions are not to judge, but to wake you up, to help you feel the weight of what you carry, and to invite you to put some of it down, not because it wasn't meaningful, but because it's time. And what is real in you will never be lost. What is meant for you cannot be taken. What has shaped you remains even after the form has passed. Detachment is not distance. It is intimacy without fear. It is loving without needing. It is living without chasing. It is the hand that touches gently, then opens. It is the heart that feels fully, then releases. It is the soul that trusts the rhythm of change. In this trust, you find rest, not because nothing matters, but because everything does. And so, you meet it moment by moment, breath by breath, with your whole being, and then let it go. There is a silent wisdom in the way water moves. It flows where it is allowed, adapts to every shape, fills every hollow, and yet never loses itself. It can be soft as mist or strong enough to carve through stone. In Zen, water is more than an element. It is a teacher, a living metaphor for the awakened mind. It yields without resistance, accepts without judgment, and continues forward without force. When faced with obstacles, it does not panic. It does not turn away. It simply finds another way, patiently, persistently. Your mind, when quiet, can be like this. Your breath, when conscious, can move like this. Your heart, when unburdened, can respond like this. Water teaches you the art of surrender, not as weakness, but as strength beyond rigidity, as power beyond pride. You do not need to overpower life. You only need to move with it, to let go of what blocks the current, and return to the natural rhythm that has always known how to carry you home. In your moments of struggle, ask yourself, not, how can I win this, but how can I flow through this? You will find that your suffering often comes from stiffness, from the need to control, to force, to prove. But peace arises when you become like water, meeting the shape of the moment, touching it fully, then continuing onward. A harsh word from someone else becomes less personal, more like a ripple on the surface. A setback becomes a bend in the river, not the end of the path. You stop bracing against life and begin to trust that forward does not always mean straight. You stop needing certainty and start honoring motion. This is the essence of the water mind, not stagnant, not chaotic, but fluid, alive, awake. There's a Zen tale of a student who came to his master full of questions and theories. The master led him to a river and asked him to step in. "What do you notice?" he said. The student looked down. "It's cold and it keeps moving." The master nodded. "Like your thoughts, like your fears. Let them flow. Don't try to dam them up. Let them pass and you will remain." The student didn't fully understand then, but over time, he returned to that river again and again, not to think, but to feel. Not to control, but to remember. The water taught him what words could not. It showed him that letting go is not the same as giving up. It is a conscious choice to trust the deeper current, the one beneath all plans and preferences. This current lives in you. It's the quiet pull toward peace even in the midst of confusion. It's the breath that returns even after anxiety takes hold. It's the part of you that knows, without knowing why, that you don't need to push so hard, that you can soften, that you can let this be what it is. Water doesn't ask if the rocks are fair. It doesn't argue with the slope. It simply continues. And so can you. Each time you choose not to react, each time you pause before replying, each time you breathe, instead of resist, you are being water. You are choosing presence over panic, wisdom over reactivity, grace over tension. Practice this about. Imagine your body as a stream. Let the breath be the current. Inhale softly. Exhale completely. Feel the way your thoughts drift like leaves on the surface, not needing to be gathered, just watched. Feel the way your emotions rise and fall like gentle waves, not wrong, not right, just part of the movement. Feel the stillness beneath all motion, the riverbed of your awareness. It holds everything, yet clings to nothing. It welcomes, yet never grasps. This is your true nature, not frozen, not rigid, but flowing. And in that flow, you find rest. Not by escaping the world, but by meeting it like water, without resistance, without fear, without needing it to be different. There's an old teaching. The softest thing in the world overcomes the hardest. Water wears down mountains, not with aggression, but with time. You don't have to force your healing. You don't have to rush your growth. Be water. Move gently. Keep going. Some days, you will feel blocked, like the stream behind a dam. That is okay. Let the pressure build without panic. The moment will come when the dam loosens, when the water finds a crack. Stay patient. Stay present. Trust that movement returns, that stillness is not stuckness. Even a frozen river remembers how to flow. Let this be your path tonight. As you lay down, imagine water pooling around your body, cool and calm. Let your breath ripple through you like wind across a lake. Let the tension in your chest melt like snow into stream. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a current to be followed. When your thoughts try to trap you in rigid loops, become like water, slip between them, dissolve them, flow through. When the day has been heavy, when the burdens feel too large, let them rest on the surface. You do not have to carry them all downstream. Some things can be left behind. Some things can be softened by your presence alone. And when you wake again, remember the river. Remember the lesson that does not shout, but whispers through every drop. That you do not need to conquer the world to be at peace. That you do not need to win every battle to be strong. That sometimes the most courageous thing is to yield, to bend, to trust, to let go, and to keep moving forward, breath by breath, like the water that never forgets how to return to the sea. There is a moment in every journey where fatigue sets in, not only of the body, but of the mind, of the spirit, of the story you carry about who you are and what must come next. A moment where effort no longer fuels progress, and pushing harder only deepens the weariness. Zen understands this place intimately. It does not fear it, nor does it rush to escape from it. Instead, it invites you to sit with it, to soften into the fatigue, to stop running from exhaustion, and listen to what it is trying to say. Fatigue is not failure. It is not weakness. It is the body's wisdom, reminding you that you are not a machine. That rest is not a luxury. That stillness is not an interruption of life, but a part of its rhythm. You are not meant to be always striving, always performing, always doing. You are also meant to pause, to lie down, to breathe, to simply be. In the Zen tradition, there is deep respect for the ordinary act of lying down. It is not laziness. It is the practice of surrender, a sacred moment of allowing the earth to hold you, the breath to move through you, the thoughts to slow without needing resolution. It is a time of return, a way of acknowledging that this moment, quiet, undramatic, unproductive, is also complete. You may find it difficult to give yourself this permission. You may hear the mind insist that you have not earned rest, that there is more to fix, more to plan, more to achieve. But none of that needs to be true right now. In this space, under this sky, in the cradle of night, you are allowed to put it all down. Not forever, just for now, just for this breath, just for this soft descent into quiet. The mind will resist. It will offer distractions. It will replay conversations, rehearse worries, scroll through memories. This is not because you are broken. It is simply the nature of the untrained mind to fear stillness, to fill silence, to chase certainty. But Zen practice is not about silencing the mind through force. It is about learning to be the witness rather than the actor, the space rather than the storm. When a thought arises, you need not follow it. When an emotion stirs, you need not feed it. You can let them pass like wind over water. You can stay with the breath, the body, the awareness that watches without judgment. This witnessing is not passive. It is deeply active. It is the art of staying awake while resting, of letting go, while remaining rooted, of dissolving the layers of tension without losing yourself. Imagine now that your body is the earth, not something to manage, but something ancient and wise. Every ache, a whisper. Every sigh, a letting go. Every sensation, a map back home. You do not need to escape it. You only need to listen. The tightness in your shoulders is a story of effort, The heaviness in your chest, a story of carrying too much. The flutter in your stomach, a story of uncertainty. Let them speak, and then let them dissolve. Not by fixing, but by holding. Not by controlling, but by allowing. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to stop trying to be anything other than what you are in this breath. There is a koan in Zen. When you can do nothing, what will you do? It sounds like a riddle, but it is a mirror. When there is no more fixing, no more effort, no more reaching, what remains? The answer is not in action, but in being, in the gentle return to presence, in the slow melting of resistance, in the sacred silence that exists beneath all noise. You do not lose yourself in rest. You find yourself. You return to the place where identity melts, where striving falls away, where all that remains is breath and breath and breath. Let the breath be your guide. Let it slow, naturally, without force. Let the inhale rise, like a wave, and the exhale fall, like rain. Let the rhythm find you, like a song you had forgotten you knew. As you breathe, imagine the body softening from the inside out. The forehead smooth, the eyes heavy, the jaw unclenched, the throat open, the shoulders dropped, the spine lengthened, the belly rising and falling with the tide of now. Let the hips sink. Let the legs release. Let the feet rest. You are not holding anything right now. You are not needing to be anywhere. You are simply here, sinking, softening, settling into this sacred rest. The teachings remind us even the Buddha lay down. Even the awakened ones rested. Rest is not the opposite of practice. It is part of it. In fact, in the moment of deepest rest, the mind often becomes clearest. Not because you tried harder, but because you finally stopped trying. In that quiet, insights arise like stars. Not loud, not forced, but gently appearing as the noise fades. You begin to remember what is true. That you are not your productivity. That your worth does not depend on your output. That your being is enough, even when you are doing nothing at all. This moment is not empty. It is full of life, the quiet hum of breath, the pulse beneath the skin, the warmth that spreads as tension leaves, the space that opens when you no longer resist. The body remembers how to rest. You only need to let it. You do not need to guide it. You do not need to perfect it. You only need to stop interfering. Every exhale is a return. Every pause is a homecoming. Every breath, a gentle invitation to come back. Not to effort, but to ease. And when the thoughts come again, and they will, you can smile softly and say, "Not now." You are not pushing them away. You are simply not following. You are choosing peace over problem-solving presence, over planning softness, over struggle. This choice is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the wisdom of the river that does not rush, the wisdom of the moon that does not speak, the wisdom of the forest that grows without asking to be seen. You are part of that same wisdom. You belong to the same stillness. You are not separate from it. You are made of it, of Tava. If you find the mind tightening again, return to the body. Place your attention in the soles of the feet, the backs of the knees, the base of the spine. Let gravity hold you. Let the ground rise to meet you. You are safe. You are supported. You are here. Let the breath be slow. Let the thoughts be soft. Let the silence deepen. Each moment, a descent not into sleep alone, but into something more ancient. A stillness that holds all things. A spaciousness where nothing needs to be explained. A presence that is always waiting just beneath the noise. Tonight, you are not here to perform. You are not here to fix. You are here to return. To the rhythm that has always been within you. To the quiet that needs no defense. To the breath that asks nothing of you but your awareness. Let the breath continue. Let the silence hold you. Let the night do its work. Nothing is broken. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is missing. You are breathing. You are resting. You are home. There's a story in Zen about a monk who lived at the edge of the forest. Every morning before sunrise, he would walk to the nearby river with a wooden pail and scoop water. Not because anyone asked him to, not because it served an obvious purpose, but because he said it cleared the dust from his mind. One day, a visitor asked why he didn't just meditate on a cushion like everyone else. The monk smiled and said, "I am meditating, only the cushion is moving." This is the essence of Zen action. Not that the outer world must become still, for inner stillness to arise, but that your way of moving through the world can itself be a meditation, a soft engagement with reality that flows from presence rather than resistance. In modern life, movement is often confused with busyness, and busyness with purpose. But Zen draws a gentler distinction. It does not ask whether you are moving, but how. Not whether you are acting, but from where. Are you moving from stillness, or are you trying to run from it? Are you acting from alignment, or are you reacting from fear? The answer changes everything. Because when stillness becomes your root, your actions grow differently, like trees whose branches rise effortlessly from deep, quiet soil. So much of what you do is shaped not by what you intend, but by what you avoid. You reach for work, not because it fulfills you, but because silence feels unbearable. You talk not because you have something to say, but because pausing would expose your discomfort. You keep yourself endlessly in motion because stillness threatens to reveal the rawness underneath. But Zen is not afraid of that rawness. It welcomes it. It sits with it. It invites you to stop polishing the surface and to begin seeing what actually lives within. Not to judge it, not to fix it, but to hold it like the monk holds his bucket of river water, just enough to see the reflection clearly, just enough to wash the dust away. And in this reflection, you begin to see that stillness is not the absence of feeling, but the space that allows feeling to be held. It is not the end of thought, but the end of being controlled by thought. It is not the denial of action, but the foundation of wise action. When you move from stillness, your words are fewer but truer. Your choices are slower but more precise. Your presence becomes a gift, not a performance. You are no longer chasing clarity in the outer world because you have begun to trust the clarity within. And that inner clarity, born not from thinking, but from being, becomes your compass. You may wonder how to find such stillness in the middle of a life that demands so much of you. The answer is simple, though not always easy. You stop waiting for stillness to arrive and instead begin to carry it with you. Like the monk with his bucket, You create rituals that root you, small, ordinary acts that anchor your attention, that remind your nervous system how to soften. Maybe it's lighting a candle each morning before your day begins. Maybe it's placing your hand on your heart each time you feel overwhelmed. Maybe it's a moment of breath before each email, each meeting, each step into noise. These are not solutions. They are invitations, gentle reminders that you are allowed to return again and again to yourself. There is no rule in Zen that says stillness must be quiet. A drummer can find stillness in the rhythm of the beat. A parent can find stillness in the tenderness of brushing a child's hair. A teacher can find stillness in the pause between words, in the space where learning breathes. Stillness is not about what you're doing. It's about how you're being while you do it. You can walk fast and still be at peace. You can speak passionately and still be anchored. The question is not how much noise surrounds you, but how much noise you carry inside. And once you begin to feel the difference, you'll notice that your inner volume is not determined by the world. It is shaped by your attention, by the quality of your breath, by the way you meet this moment. Breathe now, not deeply, just naturally. Let the breath find you. Let it be enough. As it moves, and say to yourself, here. As it moves out, say to yourself, now. Let these words be a rhythm. Let them soothe the part of you that thinks something is missing. Here. Now. No chasing, no fixing, just being. And in this being, something extraordinary begins to unfold. The mind may still talk. The body may still ache. But your relationship to them changes. They become part of the field, not disruptions. They move through you, but no longer define you. You are the sky, not the storm. The ground, not the tremor. You do not need everything to settle for stillness to be real. You need only to stop resisting what is. There's another story. One of an old master who was asked how he maintained his calm during chaos. He answered, "Because I do not argue with reality." This is the fruit of stillness, not numbness, but deep acceptance. Not submission, but flow. You stop needing the river to run straight. You stop fighting every turn. You begin to listen, and in that listening, your wisdom deepens. You make fewer assumptions. You ask better questions. You become slower to anger, quicker to compassion. You no longer rush to defend your identity because you no longer fear being misunderstood. Stillness gives you the strength to let go of needing to be right and the space to be real instead. As you lie here tonight, feeling the weight of your body against the earth, you are not being unproductive. You are practicing the most radical form of wisdom stopping, not because everything is done, but because you understand that stillness is not the reward after effort. It is the root of effort that nourishes everything else. In this space, you are not waiting for the world to make sense. You are learning to meet the world as it is. You are breathing with it, moving with it, resting with it. And in this resting, the dust settles. The water clears. The next step becomes visible not through thought, but through presence. When you wake again, you may find that nothing external has changed, but something in you has softened, expanded, quieted. The world still spins, but you are no longer dizzy. The noise still exists, but you hear something deeper beneath it. And that something, the stillness that is always present, always waiting, becomes your guide, your route, your refuge. It walks with you. It breathes with you. It becomes the invisible thread that ties your doing to your being, your outer life, to your inner truth. You are no longer seeking stillness. You are living from it. In the quiet folds of the forest, where sunlight filters through the canopy, and time seems to slow, the Zen monks of old would often walk without destination. Their steps had no urgency. Their eyes did not seek anything specific, and yet their presence in each movement was total. This practice, known as Kinhin walking meditation, is not about reaching a place. It is about meeting each step as a complete experience, as if the entire world exists in that single motion. You walk slowly, intentionally, heel touching the earth, then the ball of the foot, then the toes, aware of every point of contact. Not thinking, not planning, not rushing, just being. This is a sacred way of understanding one of Zen's deepest teachings, that peace is not found after movement ceases, but inside the movement itself. You do not need to wait for silence to find stillness. You can find it in the rhythm of your life, in the ordinary acts repeated each day. Stillness is not separate from life. It is life once you stop resisting it. You may think of stillness as something far away, something you must retreat to the mountains to find. But Zen reminds you that the mountain is within, that the path to peace is walked, not in perfect silence, but in mindful engagement. The dishes washed with full attention become a meditation. The floor swept with care becomes a prayer. The words spoken with intention become seeds of transformation. You do not need to add anything to your life to find presence. You only need to stop skipping over it, to stop living in the future or retelling the past or evaluating the moment before it has even passed. Presence does not require perfection. It requires willingness. The willingness to meet this breath fully, to feel this sensation completely, to listen to this silence without running from it. In every moment of awareness, you return home. Not to a place, but to a way of being, a way that does not depend on circumstances, but arises from choice. The choice to notice, the choice to pause, the choice to receive what is here rather than reaching for what is not. When you live this way, something in your nervous system begins to shift. The constant vigilance softens. The background hum of anxiety quiets. The body begins to trust that it is safe to be here. The mind begins to loosen its grip on needing to know. You stop approaching life as a problem to be solved and start experiencing it as a mystery to be lived. The mystery is not something to fear. It is something to breathe with. Breathe now, not for a purpose, not to relax or improve. Just breathe to feel what it means to be alive. Let the inhale come like an offering. Let the exhale be a letting go. Let each breath mark your return to now. Inhale this moment. Exhale this presence. You do not need to accomplish anything right now. You do not need to be anyone else. Your breath is enough. Your awareness is enough. This is enough. The mind may still wander, and that's okay. Gently, kindly invite it back. No punishment, no scolding, just a return again and again, like walking a spiral path, always coming closer to the center, even when the route feels long. And what is at the center? Not some final wisdom, but simplicity. Not answers, but rest. Not perfection, but openness. You begin to see that underneath all your striving is a longing not for more, but for peace. A peace that arises when you stop needing to earn your place in the world, when you stop measuring your worth by what you produce or prove, when you remember that being is not something to justify, it is something to honor. This is not about doing less. It is about doing with presence, loving with presence, even grieving with presence, because every experience held fully becomes sacred. Zen does not offer you escape. It offers you intimacy with the raw, vivid, messy aliveness of now. It teaches that freedom is not the absence of boundaries, but the presence of attention. That awakening is not something to achieve later, but something you touch in the quiet of washing your hands, tying your shoes, placing a cup down gently. In these small moments, you can feel eternity. In these ordinary acts, you can find the extraordinary, not through trying, but through seeing, through choosing to be with what is without armor, without hurry. The challenge is not in knowing this, but in remembering it, again and again. Because the world will always pull you away. The noise will return. The distractions will multiply. The mind will insist that you are late, that you are lacking, that you must do more before you can rest. But you now have a different voice within a quieter one, perhaps, but deeper. One that says, pause. One that says, feel. One that says, this is it. Not a rehearsal, not a prelude. This is life. Not the one you planned, perhaps, but the one you have, and it is worthy of your full attention. So let this night be a renewal, a soft homecoming, a gentle return to the parts of yourself that have been waiting to be seen, not your accomplishments, but your aliveness. Not your achievements, but your breath. As you lie in stillness, know that you are practicing the deepest form of presence. You are no longer running, no longer hiding. You are here. The forest may be quiet, but inside you, the trees are swaying with grace. The river is flowing slowly beneath the stars. And your breath is part of it all, moving like wind through tall grass, reminding you that peace is not found in the absence of noise, but in the presence of stillness carried wherever you go. In a quiet temple, nestled between ancient cypress trees, there lived an old Zen gardener who tended to the same patch of soil for over 60 years. He never taught formally, never gave lectures or wrote words on scrolls, yet people from distant places would come just to watch him sweep, to sit near him in silence, to feel something stir in the quiet presence of his care. One traveler once asked him, "Why do you sweep the same path every morning when the leaves will fall again by night?" The gardener smiled, not with sarcasm, but with stillness in his eyes, and replied, "Because the leaves fall again by night." In that simple answer was a lesson deeper than any scripture, a recognition of rhythm, of commitment, not to outcomes, but to presence, not to permanence, but to process. The act of sweeping was not about cleaning, it was about remembering. Remembering to return, remembering to care, remembering that nothing we do lasts forever, but everything we do leaves a trace. The sweep of the broom becomes a prayer, the gesture a meditation, the repetition a devotion to the present. Zen understands something many forget, that the sacred is not hidden in rare moments, but revealed through repetition, through the patient return to a task, a breath, a space. The way you make your bed in the morning, the way you wash the bowl after a meal, the way you fold your clothes with attention. These are not chores. These are reminders. Each one says, I am here. I see. I care. And when done without rush, without resentment, even the most ordinary task becomes a mirror for your inner world. If you sweep with anger, the broom becomes heavy. If you sweep with worry, the rhythm breaks. But if you sweep with presence, each movement returns you to the center of yourself. This is not about perfection. The leaves will return. The dust will settle. The dishes will pile. But that is not failure. That is life inviting you to begin again, and again, and again. In the modern world, beginnings are celebrated, endings are mourned, but repetition is often dismissed. It is seen as mundane, as something to escape from, to automate, to finish quickly, so you can move on to what really matters. But Zen reverses this perspective. It says repetition is the path. The returning is the real work. The discipline of showing up to your life again and again without needing it to be new or exciting or impressive. That is where liberation begins. Not in achieving some rare state of enlightenment, but in folding the blanket the same way every night. In lighting the incense with the same quiet reverence. In sitting in silence, even when the silence feels loud. Repetition becomes a vessel that holds your presence. Like waves lapping the shore, your practice doesn't need to be different each time. It only needs to be real. And so, you ask yourself, what do I repeat? What patterns am I reinforcing each day? What rituals carry my attention? And which ones are performed in absence? The way you start your morning, the way you speak to yourself, the way you react when things don't go as planned. These are not minor moments. They are the soil in which your mind is planted. Zen does not seek to replace your habits with exotic rituals. It seeks to wake you up to the ones you already have, to see your life not as something to escape, but as the very ground of your awakening. Your breath, your tasks, your relationships, they are all invitations to bring more care, more presence, more remembering. Let yourself remember now, not a memory of the past, but a remembering of your breath, your body, this space, the softness in your face, the rise of the chest, the stillness that is always just beneath the noise. Return to it, not because you should, not because it's required, but because this is where your life actually is. In the repeated motion, in the breath that returns without being asked, in the small acts that no one sees but you. This is your temple. This is your path. And the more you honor it, the more sacred it becomes. You are not here to finish everything. You are not here to complete some grand task that will finally make you worthy. You are here to sweep the path, to light the candle, to place one foot after another with care. And if you forget, that's okay. Zen is not about never forgetting. It is about how you return, with gentleness, with breath, with the willingness to begin again. The repetition is not a punishment, it is your prayer. There's a profound difference between solitude and isolation, though both can feel similar from the outside. Isolation is a cutting off, a withdrawal rooted in pain or fear, a wall erected to keep the world out. But solitude in the Zen tradition is sacred. It is not loneliness, it is communion. It is not an escape from others, but a return to yourself. The masters who spent years in mountain huts were not running away from humanity. They were walking towards something deeper, a silence vast enough to hear their own mind clearly, a stillness wide enough to meet the self beyond identity. In solitude, you begin to remember the parts of you that do not perform, that do not adjust to please, that do not depend on external validation to feel real. You remember the you that simply is. And in that remembering, peace arises. Not the peace of having everything figured out, but the peace of no longer needing to. Modern life often tells you to stay connected, to always be reachable, to scroll endlessly so you don't miss anything. But in doing so, you risk missing the one thing that actually matters, your own presence. Zen solitude is not about being alone in a physical sense. It's about being undisturbed inwardly, about creating enough inner space to see what truly lives beneath the surface. You may find that what lives there is not what you expected, that beneath the busyness is grief, that beneath the anger is tenderness, that beneath the numbness is longing. And if you stay, without judgment, without rushing to fix you, begin to see that nothing within you is wrong. Everything you feel is a doorway. Everything arising is an invitation to return again and again to the silence that holds it all. Zen monks often practice session-intensive periods of meditation that strip away distraction and demand presence. These retreats are not comfortable. The mind rebels, the body aches, but eventually something shifts. You stop resisting, and in that surrender, a different kind of awareness is born. Not dramatic, not sudden, but clear, steady, spacious. You may never sit in a monastery, but you can create your own session even now in this breath. You can close your eyes and meet yourself fully. You can sit with what is not to change it, but to witness it. You don't need to escape your life to do this. You only need to pause, to stop chasing just for a moment, to be with yourself just as you are. In solitude, the mind softens its grip. The narratives slow. The emotions rise and pass like birds in the sky. You begin to see that you are not your thoughts. You are the space through which they move. You are not your fears. You are the stillness that holds them. This shift does not happen all at once. It happens breath by breath, as you stop trying to fix your experience and begin to allow it. To let the sadness be here, to let the joy be here, to let the uncertainty be here, all of it held in the quiet bowl of your awareness. You do not need to explain your solitude to anyone. You do not need to defend your need for quiet. You are allowed to step back, to disconnect, to listen inwardly. This is not selfish. It is sacred. Because when you return from that space, you return different, more grounded, more real, less reactive. You speak more slowly, you hear more fully, you live more gently. This is not magic, it is presence. It is what happens when you give yourself permission to be without performance, without noise. Tonight, as you rest, let yourself lean into solitude, not as emptiness, but as fullness. Let the silence wrap around you like a soft blanket. Let your breath anchor you. Let the darkness become a friend. You are not alone in this silence. You are accompanied by every person who has ever sat in quiet searching for truth. You are part of a lineage of stillness. And in that lineage, you belong. There is nothing you must do right now. Nothing to fix. Nothing to become. Only this breath. Only this being. Only this sacred return. There is a subtle, yet profound practice in Zen called non-grasping. It is not a technique in the usual sense, but a shift in how you meet the world, a loosening of the hand that always wants to hold, a softening of the mind that always wants to cling. Imagine for a moment that everything you are afraid to lose has never truly belonged to you. The praise, the attention, the control, even the certainty you fight to maintain, they are like water held in an open palm. Try to grasp tighter, and they spill. Let the hand rest open, and the water settles on its own. Zen does not ask you to stop loving or to stop caring. It invites you to love without possession, to care without attachment, to meet life without always needing it to fit your story. In this way, you learn to live not by holding on, but by letting be. You begin to realize that peace is not something you gain through control, but something you uncover through release. Most of your suffering does not come from what happens, it comes from the story you tell. About what happens, the way you resist, the way you tighten. When you let go of the grip, the moment begins to breathe. It begins to show you what it actually is, not what you fear it might become. Letting go is not about giving up. It is about returning to reality. It is about surrendering the illusion that you are in charge of the river's flow. You still paddle, you still steer, but you stop shouting at the current. You stop trying to make the water run backwards. You begin to trust that what comes, comes. What stays, stays. What goes, goes. And in that trust, your heart softens. The noise quiets. You stop needing guarantees. You begin to see the wisdom in impermanence, the kindness in uncertainty. When you grasp everything, becomes a potential loss. When you let go, everything becomes a gift. A Zen master was once asked what enlightenment felt like. He replied, "When hungry, I eat. When tired, I sleep." The questioner pressed, "But isn't that what everyone does?" The master answered, "No. When they eat, they think of many things. When they sleep, they dream of tomorrow. But when I eat, I eat. When I sleep, I sleep." This is the heart of non-grasping, total presence, undivided attention. A life lived in the simplicity of what is. So much of your fear is rooted in trying to hold on to things that were never meant to be permanent. You try to freeze joy, preserve love, anchor relationships, control outcomes. But the truth is that life is a wave, not a statue. It moves, it breaks, it rises again. Trying to stop it is like trying to hold a breath forever. Eventually, you must release. And when you do, a new breath always comes. This is not something to mourn. It is something to honor. To live fully is to participate in this movement, to welcome, to feel, and to let go. Again and again, like a tree releasing its leaves in autumn, not because it is weak, but because it understands the rhythm of the seasons. Tonight, as you lie still, feel what you are still holding on to. A thought, a memory, a regret, a hope. Name it softly in your heart, and then just for this moment, let it rest. You don't need to force it away. You don't need to resolve it. You just need to stop clinging. Imagine it resting like a feather on your palm. Let the wind take it if it will, or let it sit light and unburdened. The point is not to banish thought, but to stop struggling with it. Let the breath move gently. Let the body soften. Let the mind float. You are not abandoning life. You are returning to it without the extra weight. A Zen monk once spent years obsessing over reaching enlightenment. He fasted. He sat until his legs gave out. He studied every text. Still, he felt stuck. One day, exhausted, he sat beside a stream and simply listened to the water. No technique, no striving. And in that moment, the noise in his mind fell away. Not because he achieved something, but because he let go of achieving. The stream did not need him to understand. It only needed him to listen. And in that listening, he was free. This is the paradox of Zen. The less you chase, the more you arrive. The less you demand, the more you see. Stillness is not something you reach through struggle. It is what remains when the struggle ends. Let this be your path tonight. Not another goal. Not another step, but a pause, a release. You do not need to hold the entire world in your hands. You only need to rest them. You do not need to keep every emotion under control. You only need to feel them and let them pass. This is not giving up. It is waking up to the truth that life moves through you, not against you. That your heart is not a container, but a window. That you are not a dam, but a river. And rivers do not hold. They flow in the stillness of the forest, beneath the canopy of timeless trees. A Zen master once sat in the quiet dawn and taught his students without words. There was no lecture, no doctrine recited, only the sound of wind through pine needles and the rise and fall of breath in meditation. One student, confused by the silence, asked the master, "Why don't you teach us what is true?" The master gestured toward the sunlight filtering through the leaves and said, "If you cannot hear that, then no words will help." This is the way of Zen. Truth is not given, it is uncovered. Not through explanation, but through presence. Not through theory, but through experience. It is a path not of collecting answers, but of letting go of questions. And the letting go begins with listening, not just to sound, but to silence. Not just to teachings, but to life itself as it unfolds. Listening in its deepest sense is not about the ears. It is about attention. When you truly listen, you empty yourself. You become the bowl, not the contents. You let the world enter without needing to change it. You become the space where truth can echo. You have been taught to respond, to analyze, to speak, to solve. But few have taught you to simply listen, to listen without preparing a reply, without judging what arises, without filtering everything through the lens of self-interest. In Zen, listening is meditation. It is surrender. It is humility. When you listen, really listen, you make space for something larger than your opinions to arrive. You touch something older than your habits, something more real than your narratives. You begin to hear the heartbeat of the moment, the rustle of impermanence, the murmur of the eternal in the ordinary. And the more you listen, the more you realize that nothing was ever silent. The world has always spoken. You were just too busy to notice. Tonight, let yourself notice. Not by striving, but by softening. By relaxing the need to understand. By letting the breath move freely, the thoughts come and go. You don't have to capture the moment. You only have to meet it. And in that meeting, wisdom arises. There was a monk who was known not for his eloquence or his intellect, but for his ability to listen. People would travel great distances not to hear him speak, but to speak to him. He would sit unmoving eyes, gentle breath steady. And as they spoke, something would shift. Their own words would guide them home. Their own stories would untangle. Not because the monk offered solutions, but because he offered space. He held them without trying to fix them. He honored their presence with his presence. This is the healing power of listening. You don't need to give advice. You don't need to know what to say. You only need to stay, to witness, to be a still mirror in which another can see themselves clearly. You can offer this to yourself as well. You can sit beside your own thoughts with that same patience. You can listen to the fear without needing to silence it. You can listen to the desire without needing to obey it. You can listen to the ache without needing to numb it. This is the listening that heals. It is the listening that says you are allowed to be here. All of you. No emotion denied. No thought exiled. Everything welcomed like a guest at the temple gate. And in this sacred welcoming, transformation begins. Not by force, but by presence. Not by analysis, but by attention. You begin to hear the stories beneath your stories, the longings beneath your plans, the softness beneath your armor. Listening also opens the door to compassion. When you listen, you stop assuming. You stop projecting. You begin to see others not as obstacles or roles, but as beings moving through their own private storms. You hear the pain behind the anger, the confusion behind the judgment, the fear behind the silence. And this hearing softens your heart. It melts the wall between you and them. It reminds you that beneath the surface, we are all the same. All seeking safety, all seeking love, all seeking peace. When you listen, you join the human circle. You sit around the fire with every soul who has ever ached to be seen. And you say without words, I see you, I hear you. You are not alone. This kind of listening requires stillness, not necessarily of body, but of mind, a quiet curiosity, a gentle attentiveness. It is not passive. It is vibrant. It is alive. It dances with what is. It trusts the moment to reveal itself. And when it does, the insights that arise are not from you. They are through you. You become the flute, not the music. You become the sky, not the weather. And in this vast openness, something sacred moves, something ancient, something kind. Zen listening is not about gaining knowledge. It is about remembering truth, the truth that has always been here, whispering, waiting. Let yourself be that quiet tonight. Let yourself be the bowl, the flute, the sky. You don't need to know what's next. You don't need to solve everything. You only need to be still enough to hear what is already present. The breath, the heartbeat, the silence, the soft voice beneath the noise that says, "You are home." There is a quiet transformation that happens when you stop trying to become someone and instead begin to simply be. This is the essence of returning to yourself, not as an identity to defend, not as an image to polish, but as a presence to inhabit. You are not here to perform your worth. You are here to breathe, to feel, to experience this fleeting miracle of being alive with open eyes and an undefended heart. The world has taught you to chase after becoming as though who you are is never enough. But Zen reminds you that the most profound changes do not arise from striving. They arise from resting in what is, not from ambition, but from awareness, not from chasing perfection, but from meeting imperfection with gentleness. When you stop trying to fix yourself like a broken object and begin to tend to yourself like a living garden, everything softens. You stop asking, "What should I be?" and start asking, "What is needed right now?" And in that shift, life begins to move through you more freely. The practice of Zen is not to become more spiritual, more serene, more enlightened, but to become less reactive, less attached, less entangled in the story of self. Imagine walking through a forest without the need to name every tree, without the impulse to judge every step. You begin to see the forest as it is, not as you are. The more you do this, the more you see yourself clearly, not as an idea, but as a living, breathing part of the whole. You are not separate from the forest. You are not separate from the breath. You are the breath. You are the forest. You are the sky into which everything appears and disappears. And once this is seen, not as a concept, but as a direct experience, peace arises naturally. Not the peace of silence alone, but the peace of no longer resisting what is. Many people carry around an invisible script, an internal commentary that narrates their every move. I should be better by now. I shouldn't feel this way. I need to try harder. But Zen gently invites you to put down that script, to stop rehearsing the role of the person who always needs to be more. You are not a performance. You are a presence, a moment of stillness, a flash of wonder, a vessel through which the universe experiences itself. And when you drop the self-improvement project, even briefly, you return to the simplicity of this breath, this sound, this now. There is no you to improve. There is only this unfolding. And this unfolding is already whole. When you listen deeply, not just with your ears, but with your whole being, you begin to sense the quiet intelligence that flows through all things. The way flowers turn toward the sun, without asking how. The way rivers find the ocean without needing a map. The way your breath rises and falls without needing your permission. This intelligence is not outside you. It is you. And when you align with it, you stop fighting the current. You begin to float. You begin to trust. Not in an outcome, but in the process itself. In the wisdom of what is. You begin to see that your life does not need to be spectacular to be sacred. That presence in and of itself is enough. More than enough. It is everything. Let yourself rest here for a moment, in the simplicity of being, not analyzing, not fixing, just being. Feel the breath enter and leave your body. Feel the weight of your limbs, the softness in your face, the quiet pulse of aliveness. This is not nothing. This is everything. And yet, because it asks nothing of you, you may overlook it. But this is the treasure hidden in plain sight. This is the doorway to peace. And it opens the moment you stop running, stop reaching, stop rejecting. The moment you say yes, this too, even the discomfort, even the doubt, even the longing, all of it is welcome. All of it belongs. In a Zen story, a student asked the master, "What is the path?" The master replied, "Everyday life is the path." The student then asked, "How do I follow it?" The master answered, "If you try to follow it, you go away from it." This is the paradox of awakening. The more you try to grasp it, the further it drifts. But the moment you stop grasping, it appears, like a shadow in the corner of your eye, like the scent of rain just before it falls. You cannot chase this. You can only be still enough to notice it when it arrives. And it arrives in the most ordinary places, in the sound of a spoon against a bowl, in the hush of dusk, settling over the rooftops, in the warmth of your own exhale. You do not need to escape your life to touch the sacred. You only need to see it more clearly. In the dish, you wash the floor. You sweep the body you tend. Each act done with awareness becomes a prayer. Each breath taken with reverence becomes a hymn. Each moment received without resistance becomes the teaching. This is the way of Zen, not to add more, but to subtract what obscures. Not to transcend, but to descend fully into presence. And in that descent, you discover that the ground has always been holy. There is a story about a man who searched for a hidden treasure all his life, only to discover it buried beneath the hearth in his own home. This is your story. You've been searching through relationships, accomplishments, knowledge, even spirituality for something you already are. You are the treasure. You are the one you've been waiting for. And the way home is not forward, but inward. Not ahead, but here, now. You do not need to earn your place in existence. You already belong. You always have. So what does this mean for you lying here now, listening in the darkness? It means you can stop. You can breathe. You can let go of the need to understand everything, to fix everything, to be everything. You are enough exactly as you are in this very breath. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to feel. You are allowed to not know. There is nothing you must prove. Nothing you must become. Just this moment, this breath, this presence. And from here, from this still point, life will unfold as it always has, not according to your plan, but according to its nature. And you will walk with it, not ahead, not behind, but with. You've spent a lifetime learning to respond, learning to explain, to defend, to improve, to adjust so that you might be loved or safe or worthy. But Zen whispers to you a different path. It doesn't ask for answers. It asks for presence. It doesn't demand perfection. It invites acceptance. The soft, quiet, radical kind of acceptance that says, this is what is. This breath, this ache, this tenderness, this joy. Not because you approve of it, not because you understand it, but because it is here. To welcome life as it comes is not to abandon discernment. It is to see clearly without resistance. When the wind moves through the trees, they do not argue. They do not try to hold the air in place. They bend, they listen, they dance. What if you too could respond to the movement of life, not with tension, but with trust? What if every experience, pleasant or painful, was treated as a guest, not a threat? There's a Zen story about a farmer whose horse runs away. His neighbors say such bad luck, but the farmer replies, maybe. The horse returns the next day with 3 wild horses. How lucky, they say. Maybe, he answers. His son tries to tame a wild horse, falls and breaks his leg. Such misfortune, they say. Maybe, he says. Then soldiers come to take young men to war, but pass over his injured son. The story continues. The moral never shifts. It is not the events themselves, but our relationship to them that creates suffering or peace. When you stop labeling life as good or bad, when you stop clinging to how things should be, you discover something softer, deeper, and more mysterious, the unfolding itself. This isn't passivity, it's intimacy with reality. It's allowing the river to carry you without always needing to steer. Your mind is conditioned to grasp for meaning, for closure, for control. But there is another intelligence that lives deeper than thought. It moves like water. It knows without knowing. You touch it when you're still, when you're honest, when you stop trying to be somewhere else. Zen doesn't give you a map. It shows you that you are already home. And not home as in a destination, but home as in the space you occupy when you are not resisting the present, when you rest back into what is, when you meet yourself not as a problem to fix, but as a mystery to behold. Imagine yourself walking through a quiet field under a sky full of stars. You are not asking the sky to change. You are simply walking, breathing, noticing. That is the quality of awareness Zen asks of you. A gentle openness, a sacred ordinary. In this state, even the smallest acts become sacred. Washing a bowl, folding a blanket, lighting a candle. They are not tasks to finish. They are gateways. They return you to your body, to this moment. They remind you that meaning is not something you find later, it's something you live now. Slowly, fully, with breath. And each time you return to the now, you reclaim your life. Not as a project, not as a performance, but as a practice. You start to see the world not through the lens of desire or fear, but through the clear, calm eyes of presence. You begin to see others not as characters in your story, but as beings with their own silent prayers, their own hidden griefs. Compassion rises not because you force it, but because nothing is blocking it anymore. The wall between you and life begins to dissolve. You remember that you are not watching the world, you are part of it. When you sit in stillness, as you are now, you may feel the pull of old thoughts, of unfinished business, of a restless mind that says, this can't be it. But if you stay, if you soften, if you breathe, if you don't abandon yourself, you begin to realize this is it. This moment, this breath, this gentle witnessing. There's no enlightenment to chase, no perfect version of you to become, just the unfolding, just the returning, just the listening. Zen calls this the beginner's mind, a mind free from preconceptions, open to what is. Not because it lacks knowledge, but because it doesn't cling to knowing. It meets life fresh, curious, like a child watching snowfall for the first time. The snow doesn't fall because you earn it. The wind doesn't blow because you deserve it. Life happens, and your work is not to control it, but to greet it, to breathe it in, to say yes even to the mystery, even to the not knowing, especially to the not knowing. When you embrace uncertainty, not with fear, but with reverence, you open yourself to wonder. You stop needing guarantees. You start trusting the process. You learn to walk in the dark, not by lighting up every shadow, but by becoming still enough to feel the ground beneath your feet. And you begin to see that not every answer is a door. Some questions are meant to be lived. Let tonight be your temple. Let this darkness hold you like a womb. Let the silence wash you clean. You do not need to be ready. You do not need to be worthy. You only need to be here, breathing, softening, listening. The journey is not elsewhere. It is now, and now, and now. Each breath a step, each pause a prayer, each moment a bell ringing you back to yourself. You are not lost. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be. There is a place inside you that remains untouched by noise, unchanged by time, unmoved by fear. This place does not need fixing. It does not need proving. It does not even need understanding. It simply waits like the still center of a turning wheel, like the quiet at the bottom of the sea. You may have forgotten this place in the rush to become someone in the climb toward success or certainty or safety. But it has never forgotten you. It is always here. Beneath the thoughts, beneath the striving, beneath the ache to be elsewhere, it waits. And each time you pause, each time you soften, each time you breathe, without agenda, you draw closer to it, not through effort, but through release. Not by building, but by dissolving. The path back is not a road upward. It is a return inward. In the moment you stop running, you realize you never left. Zen teaches that your true nature is not something you acquire. It is something you remember. Like the sky, remembering it is sky when the clouds pass. Like the mirror, remembering it is mirror when the dust is wiped clean. Your essence has always been whole. The cracks you carry were never in you, only in the stories you were taught to believe. That you must earn love, that you must be perfect, that you are broken. Let those stories rest now. Let them slip off like old garments that no longer fit. You do not need them here. You are not broken. You are blooming. You are not failing. You are unfolding. And even when the petals close, even when you forget again, the root remains, deep, alive, waiting. There is an old Zen saying, sitting quietly doing nothing, spring comes, and the grass grows by itself. This is not a call to inaction, but to trust. Trust that there is a rhythm deeper than your plans. Trust that growth happens even when you can't see it. That healing arrives not always in flashes, but in slow, silent breaths. You are not responsible for every bloom. You are responsible only for the conditions in which blooming becomes possible. Your gentleness, your honesty, your willingness to be here. These are the seeds. Presence is the sunlight. Breath is the water. Let the garden grow. As you lie here, you might notice resistance, old tension in the shoulders, tightness in the chest, a thought that says, this isn't enough. Let that too be here. Do not try to push it away. Do not turn your meditation into another form of control. This is not about making anything happen. It's about letting what is be, even the restlessness, even the doubt. Welcome it like an old friend who always had something to teach you. Let your body soften around it. Let your breath embrace it. You may find that what you feared was not the feeling itself, but the way you braced against it. When you stop resisting, the feeling becomes just a sensation. And the sensation passes, like weather, like clouds. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the space in which they arise and dissolve. Like waves on the ocean, they move through you, but they are not you. The wave does not define the sea. Your anger, your joy, your longing, they are expressions, not identities. When you remember this, you become free. Not because the waves stop, but because you stop drowning in them. You float, you witness, you breathe. And in that witnessing, a quiet compassion arises for yourself, for others, for all the messy, miraculous ways we try to live this life. Tonight, let go of the need to do this perfectly. There is no perfect stillness, no perfect silence. There is only honesty, and honesty begins with permission. Permission to be tired, to be uncertain, to be exactly as you are. Not the polished version, not the improved version. Just this, just now, and now, and now again. The way the moon reflects on the lake, not because the lake tries, but because it's still. You don't have to create the reflection. You only have to stop stirring the water. Let your breath be your anchor. Let your breath be your prayer. Not a chant, but a listening. Not a sound, but a space. Feel it enter, feel it leave. No need to change it, just notice. This is the thread that leads you back, again and again. Each inhale, a return. Each exhale, a release. No force, no rush. Just the rhythm of life meeting itself. Just you remembering the way home. The art of resting is one of the most sacred practices you will ever reclaim. Not the kind of rest that comes from collapsing after exhaustion, but the kind that is deliberate reverent, woven into your being as a form of self-honoring. In Zen, rest is not seen as laziness. It is presence. It is the space where wisdom unfolds, not by effort, but by surrender. When you learn to rest, not just your body, but your mind, your expectations, your inner narratives, you begin to experience life as it truly is, unhurried, vast, and compassionate. Rest in this way is not the opposite of doing. It is the fullness of being. You were never meant to sprint through life as if it were a race. You were meant to move like the tide, sometimes surging, sometimes retreating, always returning. Your breath knows this. Nature knows this. Now you remember it too. There is a deep weariness that settles in the soul when you forget how to stop. When you treat rest as something to earn, you exile yourself from peace. But what if rest was your beginning? What if rest was your baseline, not your reward? The great Zen masters did not rush. They did not rush through tea, through walking, through conversation. Every act was infused with presence, and presence invites slowness. Presence invites stillness. Presence invites rest. And so we return again and again, not just to the breath, but to the rhythm of rest that lives beneath all things. You are not falling behind. You are arriving. To rest is to return to trust. Trust that you are enough. Trust that the world does not need to be held up by your tension. Trust that things can unfold without your constant management. There is a current already moving. When you rest, you feel it. When you rest, you remember that not everything depends on your effort. Sometimes what is needed most is your softness, your openness, your quietude. The Buddha himself was known to rest beneath the Bodhi tree, not in striving, but in stillness. And in that stillness, enlightenment bloomed. Not because he chased it, but because he stopped running. Tonight, let yourself lean into that kind of rest, the kind that doesn't ask questions, the kind that doesn't demand a destination, the kind that wraps around you like soft cloth and whispers, "You are safe to stop now." Feel your body respond. Shoulders melt, jaw unclenches, heart slows its gallop. Even your thoughts begin to lose their urgency. They no longer scream. They become gentle ripples in a vast lake. And the lake, oh, the lake needs no answers. It only reflects. What if rest is the most radical act of healing you will ever allow? What if in doing less, you actually begin to feel more, hear more, see more? In the absence of striving, space opens. And in that space, truth comes forward. Truth that was drowned by busyness. Truth that was buried beneath roles and routines. You begin to see the quiet ache that needed tending, the small joys that went unnoticed, the aliveness that was waiting for your return. There is a monk who once said, "When you rest deeply, even your ancestors rest with you." This is the power of restoration. It echoes backward and forward. Your nervous system, once tangled in old fears, begins to unwind. Your breath becomes an offering. Your presence becomes a blessing. Not because of what you do, but because of how you are. This is your real work now. Not the tasks, not the striving, but the allowing, the remembering, the resting. Rest doesn't mean you disappear. It means you reappear as your truest self. The self that doesn't need applause. The self that doesn't need to explain. The self that exists before identity, before effort. The self that simply is, like the moon resting on the surface of water, like the mountain holding the sky, like your breath arriving and departing asking nothing in return. So let tonight be your temple of rest. No doctrines, no demands, just the sacred act of lying here breathing. Let your inhale be a welcome. Let your exhale be a release. Let the bed beneath you hold more than your body. Let it hold your fear, your dreams, your weariness, your longing. Let it hold it all, because here, in this space, you are not asked to be anything but real. And realness begins in rest. There is a sacredness and slowness that the modern world has forgotten. In a world that glorifies speed, productivity, and constant movement, stillness can feel like rebellion. But in Zen, slowness is not stagnation, it is intimacy. To move slowly is to see clearly. To speak slowly is to mean your words. To live slowly is to love deeply. When you slow down, you notice things you missed while rushing. The way light changes throughout the day, the quiet between your thoughts, the subtle rhythm of your own body. You begin to touch life instead of chasing it. You begin to live inside time, not outside it. And in that slowness, you meet the moment fully, not as something to overcome, but as something to cherish. There is a Zen practice called Kinhin walking meditation. You walk slowly, deliberately, with full awareness of each step. The heel touches, the sole rolls, the toes press off. Each movement is a prayer. Each breath is a bell. There is nowhere to arrive. There is only the arriving itself. The path is not separate from the destination. It is the destination. This is the wisdom of slowness, to be where you are not in fragments but whole. When you live like this, each act becomes meaningful. Pouring tea, folding laundry, opening a window. There is no such thing as a small moment. Every moment is sacred when seen through the eyes of presence. Slowness also opens the heart. When you slow down, you become less reactive. You stop interrupting your own emotions. You give grief space to speak. You let joy linger. You allow confusion to be met with curiosity instead of panic. You stop rushing toward the next thing and you begin to ask, what is this thing? And often what you find is not what you expected. You may find sorrow beneath your anger. You may find hope beneath your fear. You may find silence beneath your need to talk. All of this is revealed in slowness. Not because slowness gives you answers, but because it gives you space. Imagine a garden. If you walk through it quickly, you see shapes and colors. But if you sit, if you wait, if you slow down, the garden begins to speak. You hear the rustle of leaves, the hum of bees, the way sunlight filters through branches. Life reveals itself to the one who lingers. Your inner world is no different. It, too, is a garden, and it, too, longs to be listened to without rush. When you slow down, you become the kind of presence your inner self has been waiting for. You become the friend who doesn't need to fix, only to witness. You become the still pond in which the truth can reflect. This is the power of slowness. It reunites you with yourself. It breaks the trance of urgency. It reminds you that you are not a machine, not a project, not a performance. You are a living being with rhythms, with tides, with seasons, and your soul blooms in its own time. There is no rush to become. You already are. And who you are is not behind or ahead. It is here, now, exactly as you are. Tonight, let yourself slow down even further. Not just in your body, but in your thoughts. Notice how quickly the mind wants to move where it wants to go. Gently invite it back to the breath, back to the softness of the pillow, back to the feeling of being held. You are not late. You are not falling behind. You are arriving. An arrival happens not in leaps, but in the smallest of steps, in the quiet exhale, in the moment you choose not to rush, in the moment you choose to be. Zen doesn't ask you to change everything. It asks you to notice, to walk slower, to eat with awareness, to speak with intention. These are not rules. They are invitations to touch the depth of now, to taste the fullness of life, to feel the sacred in the ordinary. Slowness is not about doing less. It's about being more aware, more present, more connected. And from that place, your life becomes art. Not because it is perfect, but because it is real. So let yourself be real tonight. Let yourself move like water, slow and sure. Let the mind settle. Let the body soften. Let the breath return. You don't need to speed up to catch anything. What you seek is already within you. What you long for is already here. Waiting, breathing, being, with you, as you. The path of Zen does not lead to a final destination, nor does it promise a moment of ultimate arrival. Instead, it opens you to a life where each moment is already complete, already whole. This moment, yes, even this one, with its quiet doubts, its tender aches, its imperfect unfolding, is enough. But to see this, truly see it, you must first let go of the idea that life is something to conquer. You must soften your grip on the belief that fulfillment lives somewhere else someday later. Zen invites you to meet life not as a puzzle to solve, but as a mystery to enter. And you enter it not with answers, but with presence. Not with certainty, but with openness. What would it feel like to stop trying to improve every moment and instead allow it to be what it is? What would it feel like to trust that the wisdom of the moment is revealed only when you stop forcing it to be something else? There is an old teaching: when walking, just walk. When eating, just eat. Simple words, yet profoundly difficult in a world that urges you to multitask, to optimize, to always be elsewhere. You may find yourself eating while scrolling, walking, while worrying, speaking, while rehearsing your next sentence. This fragmentation pulls you away from your center. But what if you allowed yourself to return? Return to your feet as they touch the ground. Return to the taste of your meal. Return to the sound of your own voice. When you inhabit your actions fully, they become sacred. you begin to see that mindfulness is not something you do. It's the way you do everything. It's how you hold a cup, how you greet a stranger, how you listen, how you love. And through this practice of presence, you begin to uncover the great paradox. The more completely you inhabit this moment, the more timeless it becomes. Time stretches, space opens, the edges of self blur, and in that opening, you meet something vast, something still, something that was always here waiting for your attention. This is the field where the mind rests. This is the moment where the heart remembers. In Zen, this is called suchness, the raw, unfiltered truth of what it is. Before the mind interprets it, before the ego defines it. To live in suchness is to trust that what is enough. Not because it is perfect, but because it is real. There is freedom in suchness. When you let go of the need to make every moment valuable, you begin to experience the inherent value in every moment. You stop measuring your life in accomplishments and begin to measure it in presence. How fully did you feel that breeze? How deeply did you listen to that silence? How honestly did you meet that sadness? These are the questions Zen asks not to judge, but to invite you home. Home to your breath, home to your body, home to this moment, which needs nothing but your awareness to become holy. Tonight, as you lie still, I invite you to feel the suchness of this moment, not as an idea, but as a sensation. Feel the air against your skin. Feel the quiet in the room. Feel the way your breath moves without your control. This is life happening now, not in the next task, not in the next version of you. Here, now, fully. And as you feel this, notice what softens. Notice what lets go. You are not preparing for peace. You are in peace. You are not waiting to arrive. You have arrived. There is a silence within you that predates words, a stillness that does not rely on circumstances to exist. This silence is not empty. It is full of knowing, full of presence, full of life. You do not have to earn your way into it. You only need to stop moving away from it. All your searching, your striving, your questions, they are clouds drifting across a sky that never changes. The sky doesn't resent the clouds. It simply holds them. In the same way, your awareness holds your thoughts. Your presence holds your experience. The peace you long for is not on the other side of effort. It is underneath your resistance. When you surrender the need to fix everything, you arrive at the place where nothing needs to be fixed, where everything is already whole. Zen invites you to meet each moment as it is without adornment, to be with what is without, trying to make it more or less. This is the practice of non-judgmental awareness. Not because judgment is wrong, but because it obscures clarity. When you stop labeling the moment, you begin to see it. Really see it. The way light pools on the floor, the way your chest rises and falls, the way your mind loops and softens. Everything becomes visible. And in visibility, everything becomes sacred. This is not romanticism. It's recognition. Recognition that nothing needs to be added to this moment for it to be complete. Even discomfort can be complete. Even doubt can be held in love. When the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, he did not escape his suffering, he met it, face to face, breath by breath. And in that meeting, something shifted, not because he fought it, but because he stopped fleeing. You too can sit beneath your own tree. You too can meet what arises without turning away. This is the courage Zen asks of you, not to fight, not to fix, but to stay present, to stay kind, to stay open, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because what hurts is often the gateway to what heals. What aches is often the doorway to what awakens. There is a myth that spiritual practice should feel good. That peace means the absence of discomfort. But Zen knows better. Zen knows that peace is not found by avoiding pain, but by expanding your capacity to hold it. Peace is not the elimination of waves. It is learning to surf, to float, to let the wave rise and fall without believing you are drowning. Your breath teaches this. Every inhale carries sensation. Every exhale releases. Nothing stays. And because nothing stays, everything can be held lightly. Even grief, even joy, even the longings that seem to have no end. So, as you lie here tonight, I invite you to stop running, to stop planning, to stop rehearsing who you might become. You do not need to become. You need only to be. Right here, right now, in the body you have, with the breath you are given, with the softness that lives just beneath the surface of your effort. Let that softness rise. Let it fill your chest. Let it settle in your belly. Let it ripple through your fingers and toes. You are not preparing for life. You are living it. The great paradox is that nothing needs to change for everything to shift. The moment you stop resisting, the moment you are free. The moment you stop demanding something else, you discover what is. And what is enough. The sound of your breath, the warmth of your skin, the quiet pulse of aliveness. This is not nothing. This is everything. This is the moment the Zen masters point to when they say chop wood, carry water. Not because chopping wood is profound, but because presence is. Not because water is rare, but because attention is. You don't need more magic. You need to notice the magic that's already here. Let yourself rest in that noticing. Let yourself fall into the arms of what is. There is nowhere else to be. There is nothing else to do. Just this. Just now. Just you. As you arrive now at the final part of this journey, know that there is no finality in stillness, no conclusion in presence. What we have traveled together is not a path that ends. It is a circle, a breath, a rhythm that continues. Zen does not lead you to a destination. It invites you to live in the middle of the question. And tonight, as your body sinks deeper into rest, I invite you to let go, not only of thought, but of the need to complete anything. You are not here to finish. You are here to return, and return again, to now, to the hum beneath all sound, to the center that has never moved. Consider the moon. It does not hurry through its phases. It waxes and wanes with gentle certainty, illuminating the night and retreating into shadow over and over again. Your soul is no different. There will be bright seasons and dim ones. moments of clarity, and moments of unknowing. But all of them belong. All of them are part of your becoming. The silence you feel tonight is not empty. It is full of beginnings, full of healing, full of you. And in this quiet, everything you've been seeking settles beside you, not as an answer, but as a companion. Peace is not the absence of noise. It is the presence of spaciousness. The Zen masters tell us, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Life does not become extraordinary. You become awake to the extraordinariness of life. The way the wind touches your skin, the way breath anchors your awareness, the way stillness shows you what matters not in grand revelations, but in the soft persistence of now. So I invite you here at the edge of sleep to let that now open, to stretch out into its vastness. Let the body go. Let the stories go. Let even this voice fade. What remains is you, your essence, your stillness, your knowing. Nothing to hold, nothing to prove, just the vast wide open sky of consciousness. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a song being sung by the universe. You do not need to make yourself worthy of belonging. You already belong. The breath proves this. The heartbeat proves this. You are part of it all, interwoven, interbeing, from the soil that cradles your feet to the stars that mirror your longing. You are included in this great dance. And that dance does not require your effort. It only asks for your presence. So as this story nears its pause, not its end, rest in that presence. Let every word you've heard become a seed, not for the mind to analyze, but for the soul to absorb. Trust that what was needed reached you. Trust that what was too soon will return. There is nothing wasted. There is no wrong path. Just the breath. Just this moment. Just your gentle return. Let the breath carry you now into rest, into the gentle tides of sleep, into the stillness that has been calling you home all along. You are safe. You are held. You are whole. And in the silence that follows, may you remember again and again the truth we never needed words to say. You are already the stillness. You are already the peace. You are already home.